Chapter 628. Subjugation. 1. The patriarch of the Jetta clan was one with the space around him. In his current state of harmony, he was free to travel almost instantaneously toward Jianshen. His saint weapon resplendently shined as it flew at Jianshen. Following the path of the blade, a fissure about 2 meters wide was torn asunder. Even Jianshen felt slightly intimidated by the might of this sword swing. He knew that his chaotic body had been strong enough to endure a throat-crushing experience. But this time he was facing the edge of an extremely sharp weapon. Compared to a claw, a sword was far more intimidating. Jianshen had no guarantees that he would be able to survive this attack as easily as the strike before. The power that came from a saint ruler, when they used their saint weapon, was not insignificant. Unwilling to take the sword head-on, Jianshen decided to evade by dodging to the side. However, he was still a heaven saint master. It was true that he had the battle strength of a saint ruler. But Jianshen had not been blessed with an iota of comprehension of the profound mysteries of the world. This one-sword swing of the patriarch was imbued with the powers of space itself. Jianshen was left with no bargaining power as he tried to dodge the sword. In the end, Jianshen was struck in the chest by the flaming sword. However, the sword did not pierce his body as expected. When the moment came for the saint weapon to make contact with Jianshen's chest, the forward momentum of the sword came to a grinding halt and moved no further. Despite its unbelievably sharp point and the power behind it, it was only capable of cutting through a shallow layer of skin, drawing a dot of blood. Patriarch Jetta's irises dilated to practically a needle's circumference as he gasped in shock at the small point of damage on Jianshen's chest. He couldn't believe it. While he didn't put his entire might into this one swing, it was still roughly 80% of his raw might. This energy could destroy the world around him if directed, yet Jianshen was still floating in front of him practically unharmed. Such a sight was far too much for him to accept. Jianshen looked down at the mosquito bite-like injury on his chest, and an extremely wide smile graced his face. A saint ruler had used his saint weapon, yet it was ineffective. This only went to show just how strong the chaotic body was. Now Jianshen was no longer afraid of the patriarch. Master, Ziying and Qingxua haven't yet recovered our strength, so the origin energy is not yet comparable to the chaotic force. During this battle, please use the chaotic force in your body instead. Your chaotic body and chaotic force are only at a rudimentary level. A level so rudimentary that it cannot even be considered as the chaotic body or chaotic force, but it should pose no threat when fighting a saint ruler of this world. Ziying spoke in Jianshen's mind. Jianshen immediately gave up the notion of using the origin energy of the sword spirits to fight. The chaotic force within his body began to surge and bubble like the water in a river. A moment later, it had covered his entire body before Jianshen rushed to fight the patriarch. He wasn't skilled in close combat fighting, but there wasn't a suitable weapon available that he could use. He couldn't even use the origin energy. The circumstances were pushing him to use his fists. The patriarch easily dodged Jianshen's fist and moved behind him. He brandished his saint weapon and swung it with all his might to strike Jianshen down. Like lightning, the saint weapon arched into Jianshen's back, but the attack only served to cut away his robes, revealing his unblemished skin. Shortly afterward, a small white line appeared where the blade had cut him. Blood could be seen dripping from the white line. With his white skin as contrast, the blood was very eye-catching. The patriarch could only stare in mute shock at the wound on Jianshen's back, as his skin regenerated back to its original state, as if it had been completely unharmed in the first place. The patriarch had used his entire strength to cut down Jianshen, but the end result was a slight paper-cut-like wound that instantaneously healed itself. Impossible. The patriarch stuttered. He was completely dumbfounded by this result, where only an insignificant wound had been inflicted. The tiger cub hiding on Jianshen's shoulder had been affected by the tremendous aura of the saint ruler, causing it to let out a small, frantic cry. It clung to Jianshen's neck with both its paws. The cub seemed like it was about to collapse. Feeling the slight burn that traveled up his spine, a malevolent glint appeared on Jianshen's face. Moving the tiger cub from his shoulder to under his left arm, Jianchun moved to punch the patriarch. In fierce battle between Jianchun and the patriarch, both combatants were using their entire strength. Each attack they threw out was capable of destroying the world around them. When their attack impacted against something, a tremendous sound resonated and great winds erupted. One after another, fissures appeared in the space around them. They sucked in the light of the world, revealing twilight in the holes. By now, the forest around them was a desolate place. The battle in the sky continued for a very long time without stop. Soon enough, the manor of the Jetta clan had been utterly wiped out, and leveled with only remnants of the place to be seen scattered about. The members of the clan had long since evacuated the place with the help of the 10 Heaven Saint Masters. They were in a safe area several dozen kilometers away. Jianchun felt very sullen about the current progress of the battle. It had been dragging on for so long, but he was never able to make contact with even the robes of the patriarch. Each time he tried, the patriarch of the Jetta clan would escape. On the inverse, he didn't even know just how many blows the patriarch had landed on him. The Jetta patriarch's strikes had not been a threat to him, because of the immensity of the chaotic force. The wounds Jianchun sustained only took a small moment to heal without leaving a mark. Although Jianchun possessed the strength of a saint ruler, he was still a heaven saint master that hadn't comprehended the profound mysteries of the world. Without that comprehension, he could only defend against a saint ruler. There was no way he could land a finishing blow, or even manage to seriously injure one. Unless the saint ruler gave up on using space to evade, Jianchun had no other choice but to continue. Hovering 1,000 meters in the sky, the patriarch stared at Jianchun. Jianchun, after this long fight, you and I are getting nowhere. Why don't we stop here? Fighting any longer would only be a meaningless waste of time. After battling for so long, the patriarch knew he couldn't harm his opponent, even though held the advantage over Jianchun. Even if he went all out, Jianchun would only experience scratches. Jianchun came to a stop in the sky as well. A slight tint of azure light wrapped his body, as if he was gathering the energy of the world to make him fly. It was unlike the patriarch's ability to fly, without using the elements at all. Patriarch Jetta, I am unable to harm you, but the future Jianchun will definitely remember this grudge. He will visit once more and ensure that a disastrous payment will be taken from your clan. Jianchun emotionlessly replied. He had been extremely angry and sullen at the beginning of the fight, and had lost all his fear earlier. Jianchun was now trying to intimidate the patriarch, since he couldn't harm him. Chapter 629. Subjugation 2. The patriarch had an ugly look on his face while he listened to Jianchun. He knew that Jianchun wasn't joking, and with the talent Jianchun possessed, he would only skyrocket in strength from here on out. If the patriarch waited any longer, it would only be a matter of time before Jianchun would become a threat that he couldn't handle. However, the patriarch had no way of dealing with Jianchun even now. As the patriarch floated in midair, the twinkle in his eyes flickered unsteadily, as if he was arguing with himself internally. Several moments passed before the patriarch finally made up his mind. He grit his teeth to say, Jianchun, it's better to let sleeping dogs lie rather than wake them. You were the one who started this affair. We only wished to take back what you stole from us. And while my Jetta clan was a little excessive in some fronts, you've completely destroyed my Jetta clan's home. The home that we have stayed hidden in for thousands of years has been reduced to nothing. We can no longer live here. Therefore, we should wipe away the debt. From today on, our two sides should give up this war. Your words are cheap. Jianchun snorted. If you said this to me before, I would have considered those words seriously. But your Jetta clan is no longer an object of worry to me. Don't even try to delude yourself into thinking I won't chase you down. A dark light crossed over the patriarch's face as he said in a low voice, Jianchun, I cannot do a thing to you, but you cannot do a thing to me either. If you won't consider your own well-being, why not consider the well-being of those by your side? The Jetta clan may be a hermit clan that rarely meets with the outside world, but we still have many methods of finding out where you live, and who is closest to you. You dare? Jianchun immediately spat out with a terrifying glare. His eyes were like two sharp swords as he stared at the patriarch in fury. If you dare, Then I'll kill off all your clansmen." A furious killing intent flooded the air from Jian Chen's body as he sent out his presence to find out where the members of the Jetta clan were hiding. Since he now had strength equal in might to a saint ruler, a heaven saint master was like an ant to him. Jian Chen's reaction startled the patriarch. He consequently scolded himself for his folly. He was filled with regret now. If only he had known that such a statement would only infuriate Jian Chen, he would not have said it to begin with. If Jian Chen were to strike his clansmen, then the patriarch himself would have no way of stopping him. The chaotic force of Jian Chen was far too tyrannical, and even he was afraid of meeting it face to face. "Stay your hand. There is still room for negotiations," the patriarch cried out. Moving with the powers of space, the patriarch moved to stop Jian Chen from advancing ahead. Jian Chen's eyes were filled with anger as he swung his chaotic force-infused right hand at the patriarch, who was blocking the path in front of him. However, the patriarch dodged Jian Chen's hand with ease. Flickering to just another 100 meters away from him, the patriarch shot a beam of sword chi at Jian Chen in an attempt to hinder his forward progress. Jian Chen completely ignored the fact that he could dodge. He struck at the beam with his fist. Boom! When the fist met the sword chi, a loud explosion could be heard as a gale of leftover energy swept about and distorting the space of the world. Jian Chen continued forward with only a small injury on his right hand. Some blood could be seen trickling from it, but it healed up within a few seconds as if nothing had happened. "Jian Chen, as long as you let my Jetta clan go, I, Jetta Tai, will lend my aid to you for any 3 tasks." The patriarch swore. As far as he was concerned, the clan was far more important than anything else. As long as the clan survived, the patriarch would not feel bad about his actions. Upon hearing this, the killing intent Jian Chen was leaking began to die down a bit as he stared at the patriarch with a thoughtful look. "No, if you really wish me to cease my pursuit of killing your clan, there is only one method." "What method?" the patriarch asked. "Submit to me." Jian Chen smiled. If the patriarch really was willing to submit to him, then he would have no need to bother with this situation. "Don't even think about it." The patriarch immediately lost all color in his face as anger flooded forth. He was a saint ruler, an entity that stood on top of almost everyone else. How could he possibly submit to someone of the younger generation? A frosty look appeared on Jian Chen's face. "If that's how it is, our negotiations are finished. Jian Chen, let us settle our matters a different way then." The patriarch tried his best to quell his anger. Pretending to be the solemn one, the patriarch was currently trying his best to ensure that his clan didn't die. He was reluctant to be the angry one of the two. Shaking his head without hesitation, Jian Chen answered, "There is only this method. Aside from that, nothing else can be considered." He paused for a moment. "Submitting to me may be a little off-putting to someone like you, but it isn't too embarrassing either. I was able to reach this realm of strength at such a young age. If I am given even more time, I'll definitely step into the Saint King realm, and even the legendary Saint Emperor realm." At the mention of Saint Emperor, the patriarch's body violently trembled. He looked at Jian Chen in disbelief. However, when he considered just how young Jian Chen was, and how strong he was, the patriarch began to have second thoughts. The amount of people that reached the legendary zenith, that was the Saint Emperor realm, could be counted on one hand. It was not as if no one did, but the most important fact was that of all the people that had done so, their potential had not been as outstanding as Jian Chen's. It was extremely likely that Jian Chen would one day become a Saint Emperor. At this thought, the tension in the patriarch's heart began to dissipate. Jian Chen saw through the thoughts that the patriarch was thinking, and moved to capitalize on the moment. "Looking at the long-term benefits, submitting to me would not be a bad plan. The benefits outweigh the detriments, and will help elevate your clan's status. From a hermit clan, you may very well become a clan that will survive from antiquity to the future. When I become a Saint Emperor, you may very well have a good chance of becoming a Saint King with my assistance." The heart of the patriarch skipped a beat at those words, but with a level mind he asked, "Just what proof do you have that you are sure you will become a high and mighty Saint Emperor?" "Because I am only 23 years old, Jianchen laughed. Chapter 630. The Transformation of Little Fatty One? What? You're only 23? The patriarch exclaimed. While he knew that Jianchen was young, he didn't think that Jianchen would be that young. A saint ruler by the age of 23 was an unprecedented situation for the history of the continent. Before Jianchen, not a single person had become a saint ruler by that age. Talent like this was like a beacon of light to all else. He was a man who stood beyond all else with no equal even in the future. The patriarch's mind furiously raced as he tried to think. When he remembered how Jianchen had been able to fight him, and the deceased patriarch sure without fear of receiving punishment, he immediately let out a startled cry. Are you perhaps the reincarnation of the continent's strongest, Emotianyan? As far as the patriarch knew, only Emotianyan, the strongest person throughout the history of the continent, possessed talent as terrifying as Jianchen's. Even though concise history had only been formulated after his existence, now it was Jianchen's turn to look astonished. He had no idea that the patriarch would actually make the assumption that he was the reincarnation of the continent's strongest person, Emotianyan, after finding out his true age. So have you considered it? Submit to me, work for me, and I shall wipe away the debt of the Jetta clan. The potential benefits your clan may receive in the future are unlimited. If this isn't ideal, there is only one other way to continue this discussion. Jianchen evaded the question with a smile. Still unsure, the patriarch continued to float in the air with a conflicted expression on his face. He was clearly trying to make a decision. He knew that he would be degraded to the position of that of a slave if he submitted to Jianchen. No longer would he be able to move as he pleased. A high and mighty saint ruler of the previous generation, working like an ox, while the next generation worked as the rider. Such a decision was unbelievably difficult to make no matter how resplendent the next generation's genius was. For a good while, the patriarch hesitated. In the end, he decided he had no other choice but to compromise with Jianchen for the sake of his clan's survival. It was with a grieved expression that he said, Jianchen, you win. My Jetta clan will formally submit to you. Even as he spoke, the patriarch looked as if he had aged years and years in an instant, like his life was being sucked out of him. A victorious smile appeared on Jianchen's face as he rejoiced within his heart. He knew that from today on, he would have a saint ruler at his beck and call. Not only was that plentiful source of strength, it also served as a deterrence. You swear on your blood? Jianchen smiled. The patriarch bit his lips hard enough to draw blood and spat it out. Quickly, he drew a mysterious but grotesque pattern with his blood in the air before it flew to Jianchen. This blood oath was something that the patriarch had created using the three energies of his body and life. The owner of the blood oath was equivalent to the owner of his very life. Now that he had given the blood oath to Jianchen, it also meant that his life was in Jianchen's hands. I hope that you will be a man of your words and won't renege on it. The patriarch grimly spoke. Taking the floating blood seal in front of him, Jianchen placed it in between his eyebrows. He allowed it to disappear into his head and into his mind space. The sword spirits slowly surrounded the blood seal that the patriarch created in his mind space. From how they surrounded it, it seemed as if the sword spirits were treating the blood oath as if it were a prisoner. Master, don't worry about this, Jianchen heard Ziying say to him. Sighing in relief, Jianchen watched the blood oath disappear into the sea of chaotic force. His mind space was a dangerous place to allow things in. If he wasn't careful, the patriarch's blood oath could do something to him. After he accepted the blood oath, Jianchen felt as if there was some sort of subtle connection between him and the patriarch. It allowed him to sense which direction the patriarch was, and where the patriarch was in the general area. Jianchen was also able to feel that if he destroyed the blood oath, the patriarch of the Jetta clan would die on the spot. Knowing that he had the capability of controlling the life of a saint ruler filled with joy, this was undoubtedly a great windfall. Ah, since we are family now, how might I call you? Jianchen smiled at the patriarch. The earlier killing intent he had been releasing was nowhere to be seen. Jetta Tai, the patriarch emotionlessly stated. Unperturbed by the patriarch's attitude, Jianchen continued to smile. Then I'll be calling you that from now on. You may leave now to handle your clan. Meet me in Mercenary City half a month from now, and we'll leave together. Jeditai nodded his head without a word, but his heart was undoubtedly feeling very gloomy. Jianchun gave Jeditai several tasks to do. He then left the area after changing his clothes. 30 kilometers away he found the hiding Wang Yufeng, who was behind a giant stone. Jianchun then flew away with him in tow. Chapter 631. The transformation of Little Fatty 2. The sky above was sunny. There was not a single cloud in sight for kilometers around. A slight breeze could be felt as golden rays of light brightly sprinkled down onto the equally golden ground below. The entire continent basked in the golden rays of sun as it warmed up. Jianchun flew across the azure sky with Wang Yufeng at sound-breaking speeds. They were traveling fast enough that the scenery below was a blur. Jianchun, you really are amazing to kill even a saint ruler. I wasn't able to see the fight, but the sounds alone were enough to terrify me. The earth and the heavens themselves felt as if they were threatening to fall to pieces, and even the mountains had been utterly destroyed. I had almost thought that you were going to destroy the world. Wang Yufeng spoke passionately without pause. A saint ruler is really strong after all. They're not someone any person can easily fight. Even if I came across a saint ruler, I'd be like a piece of paper to be blown away. A battle between saint rulers is something that is barely seen, even once every 100 years. Laughing, Jianchun replied, You praise me too much. How could a saint ruler be that easy to kill? The patriarch and I fought an intense battle, but we were evenly matched. Neither one of us could harm the other, so he was unable to be killed by me. That couldn't be helped, Jianchun. You don't look all that much younger than me, but you have already become a saint ruler. Your potential is definitely limitless in the future. I, Wang Yufeng, really think that it is luck that I will be able to travel with you. I'll definitely be able to experience my own ups and downs too. Wang Yufeng happily smiled. To be able to follow a saint ruler was an undeniably joyful event to be excited for. Suddenly, Wang Yufeng thought of something and looked to Jianchun in panic. Jianchun, you can't throw me away, okay? I may just be a second cycle Earth Saint Master, but my potential isn't weak by any means either. I'm 35 years old this year, but I'm still considered a genius of the continent. Becoming a Heaven Saint Master is just a matter of time. Becoming a saint ruler wouldn't be out of the question either. If you are willing to join my mercenary group, I will of course never toss you away, but you must understand, following me is not going to always be a good thing. Although I am strong, the opponents I have are just as strong. They are not to be trifled with. Jianchun responded, Haha, I don't care about that. The events of the future are unknown to me, but I, Wang Yufeng, still wish to travel with you. Wang Yufeng laughed in ardent support of following Jianchun. Afterward, Jianchun brought Wang Yufeng to Mercenary City and left him there to wait. After exchanging a few words with Little Spirit, he left for Longevity Valley once again. At the same time as he was leaving Mercenary City, a stalwart middle-aged man currently sat in a personal room in a first-class city in some other kingdom. Respectful sir, we've investigated the matter you wished for. Within the room, another elderly man smiled professionally at him. Say it. If your information is reliable, there will be a bountiful reward. The man spoke with bright eyes and a cold voice. As soon as he heard the words bountiful reward, the other man's face grew serious. The wrinkles on his face tightened as he said, Respectful sir, our labyrinthine sect has made our investigations and have made a preliminary report on the actions of Jianchun. When he was in Mercenary City, the uproar he caused there made its way to the outskirts of the city. About a month later, he arrived at a first-class city in the Tianju Kingdom and lay waste to a strong clan. Even the city itself was harmed. It's assumed that a heaven-tier battle skill was used. The middle-aged man impatiently waved his hand. Spare me the useless facts and get to the point. I wish to know where he is. Yes, right away, the elder replied without delay. Looking as if he was thinking, he said, Since Jianchun is a Heaven Saint Master, he can fly off to places that even we cannot track with ease. We only know that 2 days ago, he arrived back at Mercenary City with another person, and then left headed to the Cross Mountains it seems. The Cross Mountains? The man's eyes lit up as he spoke. Why is he going there? Respectful sir, Jian Chen's destination might be the Cross Mountains, but we don't dare guarantee that he is going there. Whether he might alter or change his destination, we don't know. But we can guarantee that if we come across news of Jian Chen's destination, we will make sure to inform you with most haste. The elder finished his report. The man nodded his head and dropped a hefty bag of coins onto the table in front of him. This is your reward. Remember, you must follow Jian Chen and where he goes. If he heads far away from Mercenary City, tell me at once. Yes, yes. The elder quickly responded as he took the bag of coins. Opening the bag up, he allowed himself to look at the glittering coins inside with a transfixed expression. Jian Chen traveled back to Longevity Valley by himself. Now that he was done with most of his affairs, he could spend the rest of his time waiting in Longevity Valley for little Fatty to return. He could also make use of this time to familiarize himself with the chaotic force he had recently gained. With Patriarch Shi dead, the Shi family wouldn't dare send any more Heaven Saint Masters after Jian Chen. He wouldn't even need fear them. Since he was a saint ruler in strength, his foresight had greatly expanded. No longer did he fear the entirety of the Shi family, but neither did he feel like going on a trip to destroy the family. He was instead more focused on the expansion and training of the Flame Mercenaries. After he returned to Longevity Valley, Jian Chen began to converse with the villagers once more. Then, he went with Uncle Xiaomi to rest for some time. That night, Jian Chen ate dinner with Xiaomi and his wife before shutting himself in his own room. From there, Jian Chen sat as still as a stone statue and began to converse with the sword spirits to learn more about the chaotic force. Master, you are truly using the chaotic force now. Its power and might are much stronger than before. When Master uses the chaotic force, Master cannot use it to attack at random. Not only does this waste the chaotic force, it weakens the power. Ziying explained to him. Does that mean I must use my fists when I fight in the future? Jian Chen asked with some vexation. Yes, Master. The chaotic force is quite tyrannical. The average weapon wouldn't be able to withstand the chaotic force if it ran through it. Without the azulite swords being forged, you must fight your enemies with your bare hands. Ziying answered. Master, you shouldn't be so worried. You just have to get enough materials to forge the azulite swords. Yin and Yang were born from chaos, and Ziying and Qingsua were evolved from this yin and yang. Ziying and Qingsua are extremely strong. As long as Master succeeds in forging the azulite swords, the swords will become extremely strong when combined with the chaotic force. From that moment on, no one in the world will be able to stop Master. Qingsua added. Qingsua's words caused Jian Chen's mind to race furiously with delightful thoughts. He was extremely impatient to forge the azulite swords, but the task of forging them left him with a feeling of annoyance. The materials to forge the swords were far too difficult to find. Who knew just how long it would take before he would be able to gather enough materials to make the swords? Master, a ruler armament would be able to sustain the power of chaotic force. Why not find a suitable ruler armament to use in the meantime? Ziying suggested. Yes, Master. A ruler armament should be strong enough to withstand the chaotic force. Until the azulite swords are made, Master can use a ruler armament as a replacement. I know that only a saint ruler at the 9th heavenly layer is capable of leaving behind a ruler armament. But if that's the case, then a saint king at the 9th heavenly layer shouldn't be too different. Master, you should find the weapon that a saint king has left behind. Those would definitely be better than a ruler armament a saint ruler made. Ziying spoke. 9th heavenly layer saint king. Jian Chen could hardly contain his pained smile. A ruler armament was already a treasure that was nearly impossible to obtain, let alone items a saint king at the 9th heavenly layer has left behind. A godly weapon like that was most likely impossible to find, but the sword spirit's suggestions hadn't been too outlandish. Whether or not he could one was up to luck. Ziying, Qingsua, a saint ruler can harness the power of space by understanding the profound mysteries of the world. Even if I'm able to use the chaotic force, I'm unable to harm them. Would you two have any ideas on how I can change that? Chapter 632. The Transformation of Little Fatty 3. Master. The chaotic force can destroy the world if there's enough. Your proficiency with the chaotic force can be considered subpar. But even now it's not something that a saint ruler could survive against. Unless Master gets to a higher level of proficiency with the chaotic force, or perhaps forges the azulate swords, dealing with a saint ruler that can use the powers of space will be impossible. Ziying spoke. Jian Chen's eyebrows furrowed together. In other words, I have no ways of dealing with a saint ruler that can use the power of space. That may not be the case. Master, you've forgotten that movement skill you have, the illusionary flash. That movement skill embodies the laws of space. If Master were to comprehend it, then you will be able to understand the laws of space to some degree. Once that happens, even a saint ruler can be dealt with. Qingxua explained. Wouldn't that mean to say that I'll break through to become a saint ruler? Jianchen suggested. Although he was a saint ruler in strength, he was not one in status or actual power. The powers a saint ruler wielded were not things he could do. This time, Ziying and Qingxua hesitated to answer for a moment. It was finally Qingxua who said, Master, our analysis of a saint ruler suggests that their understanding of the laws of space is far more comprehensive. The illusionary flash focuses purely on speed and disregards the other aspects of space. Saint rulers are using what is perhaps the power of the world itself, and that barrier they often use is likely a construct of the world's power given a form. Qingxua is correct. Master, according to what we know of the illusionary flash, it should be able to elevate your speed based on the principles of the laws of space and nothing else. But even that will be enough to deal with a saint ruler. Ziying spoke. Jianchen pondered what they said for a few minutes before finally saying, It seems that I just have to try and comprehend the illusionary flash. With a momentary pause, Jianchen continued. Ziying, Qingxua, I've already reached the minor achievement realm with the chaotic body. How much further away is the major achievement realm? If I reach that realm, would I be comparable in strength to a saint emperor? Which one of the two would be stronger? Ziying and Qingxua both let out a peal of laughter in response to Jianchen. Master, you belittle the chaotic body far too much. You are only at the entrance of the chaotic body, and the path ahead of Master is a long one. There is no doubt that the major achievement realm would be vastly superior to a saint emperor. Master, the realms to the chaotic body aren't that clearly divided. There are far too few people that cultivate the chaotic body. They could possibly be counted on 10 fingers of 2 hands. Furthermore, there has been no one that has ever reached the major achievement. But for the sake of fully explaining the chaotic body to Master, we shall divide it up into 8 different parts. As of now, Master, you are only at the first layer. Ziying explained. Jianchen was surprised to hear that. The very first layer of the chaotic body was enough to match a saint ruler. That would mean that once he reached the highest level of the chaotic body, his strength would be at an unbelievably frightening level. This thought filled Jianchen with no small amount of joy. Afterward, Ziying and Qingxua both began to explain many of the more important points of the chaotic body to Jianchen. No longer would Jianchen be as ignorant of the chaotic body as he'd been, only knowing that the chaotic body was strong and nothing else. Jianchen spent the following days in Longevity Valley. During the day, he would go to the forest and practice the illusionary flash. At night, he would stay within his room and try to comprehend the secrets of the illusionary flash. He hoped that he would one day make a breakthrough and become proficient enough to fight a saint ruler. The tiger cub hadn't stopped either. Day after day, it would eat and digest the heavenly resources that Jianchen had been given from the Grand Elder of Mercenary City to increase its strength. Afterward, it would lay on the bed and sleep off the food. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen had stayed in Longevity Valley for an entire month. During this 1 month, he had made a good deal of progress in his studies of the illusionary flash. Although he wasn't at a level of mastery where he could deal with the saint ruler, he had still reached a far greater level of mastery. Over the span of this 1 month, the tiger cub had made a breakthrough to become a Class 5 magical beast with the help of the heavenly resources. The elevation in its power also caused the tiger cub's outer appearance to undergo a transformation as well. It could still freely control the size of its body, and it remained its previous small size with its adorable cat-like appearance. Its pure eyes were still filled with a bright light that seemed to have a life of their own. In addition, the wings on its back had grown even more, making the tiger look even softer than before. A touch of the cub felt warm and pleasant. Hidden within the forests behind Longevity Valley, a white blur traveled at great speeds through. The speed of this figure was so great that it seemed as if its body was just a mirror image that had been blended with one another, making it hard to discern the outline of the body. It was almost as if this person was one with the world, body moving without generating any wind, traveling swiftly and silently, like a ghost. At that moment, the blurry mirror images suddenly came to a stop. As soon as the figure came to a stop, a young 20-something-year-old man wearing coarse clothes could be seen. It was Jianchen. With his eyebrows perked, Jianchen turned his hand to reveal an object. In it was a single piece of white jade that had silently cracked in two. When Jianchen saw that the jade had split into two white halves, his face grew serious. Turning his hand, he ground up the remaining pieces of jade into dust and let them fly into the air. With the dust gone, Jianchen turned around and disappeared from the forest with such speed that it was hard to discern where he was headed. After returning to Longevity Valley, he went back to the room where the tiger cub was sleeping. After leaving the house, he headed straight to the field where Uncle Xiaomi was working. As soon as he took several steps toward the field, the expression on Jianchen's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly turned his head to the entrance of the valley. He could see a white blur traveling toward him from far away. Despite the distance, Jianchen's eyes could clearly make out the blur. It was the distinct figure of a young man and elderly man traveling through the air. "Hey, Jianchen, I'm back. You're here in the valley too. That's great." A loud voice called out from the air with great excitement. His voice was so loud that the entire valley heard it, giving everyone an idea of just who had returned. "That's little Fatty, he's back," a middle-aged farmer cried out before tossing down his hoe to run with the others toward the village entrance. "That's little Fatty's voice. The village elder has to be back too." From the fields, another middle-aged woman paused her actions to look into the air. When she saw two figures slowly descend from the sky overhead, a slightly reverent but admiring expression appeared on her face. The figures in the sky slowly came to a stop on the ground in front of Jianchen. Of the two, one was Elder Xiao, and the other was a young stalwart youth right next to him. The youth was filled with a boastful aura, but Jianchen could barely make out the hint of a bloody scent on him. This was the appearance of a young man who had experienced a path of massacre, a trial by fire, and a near-death experience. Staring at the young man in confusion, Jianchen could hardly believe his eyes. The young person in front of him was really the little Fatty he knew from before. The difference between him now and before was simply far too astonishing. It was practically impossible to recognize it was the same person. Chapter 633. Is that really you? You're really little Fatty. Stunned at the sight of the person in front of him, Jianchen couldn't believe his eyes that this well-built person was the very same person he knew before. Are you really little Fatty? Even Xiaomi was having second thoughts. With his hoe hefted on his shoulder, Xiaomi stood there in stunned disbelief. Was this really his own son? The little Fatty of today was drastically different to the little Fatty of before. Not only was his aura different, even his appearance and build had changed. Not a bit of fatty meat could be seen on him. He was extremely skinny compared to before. He wasn't as straightforward looking anymore. He had gained a feeling of being a highly capable person. "Father, how did you change little Fatty so much?" Xiaomi smiled to Elder Xiao. "Little Fatty, you've become so skinny. You must have suffered terribly outside." Little Fatty's mother wailed in despair before rushing out from the house to meet him. "Wow, little Fatty, you've changed so much I barely recognized you. Are you really little Fatty? You seem more like a stranger." The people from the village who were barely older or younger than little Fatty muttered to each other in disbelief. Not a single one of them could believe their eyes at his transformation. Little Fatty scratched his head with slight embarrassment when he saw just how shocked everyone was. With a chuckle, he said, "Even I don't know what happened, but I've changed a lot over the past few months. Please don't worry, everyone. I'm still the same ol' Little Fatty from before." Looking to Jinshin, he apologetically said, "Jinshin, I'm really sorry. A year ago, Grandpa took me to train, so we had to delay our meeting. Sorry for keeping you waiting." Jinshin smiled in return. "No worries. I've only just arrived myself. Little Fatty, congratulations on becoming an Earth Saint Master. You are now one of the stronger people of the continent." "Jinshin, I've finally become an Earth Saint Master." Little Fatty laughed. "Grandpa will finally let me travel the outside world with you. When can we set off?" Little Fatty ended impatiently. Thinking about how to answer the question, he finally responded, "The sooner the better. I have something to do back home, so we need to hurry back." "Jinshin, why not leave tomorrow? Little Fatty and his grandfather must have gone through a lot in their travels. Let them rest well for tonight." Little Fatty's mother reluctantly suggested. "Ah, then let us go with Auntie's suggestion." Jinshin nodded. Little Fatty's sudden return delayed Jinshin's trip back home by one more day. The next morning, everyone in the village gathered to send off Jinshin and Little Fatty. They both left the valley after one final farewell. The villagers didn't go beyond the village entrance. Instead, they watched the two leave from afar. Some of the villagers revealed envious looks. "Ai!" The plain-robed elder Xiao heaved a heavy sigh to the sky. "I didn't wish for Little Fatty to be entangled with the matters of the outside world. I wanted him to live a life of peace here. But Jinshin's sudden arrival brought him dreams of traveling. Whether this is a blessing or curse, I'm not sure. Father, we should be approving of Little Fatty's wish to travel the outside world. Little Fatty will become wiser with this trip. Remaining in the village will only stifle Little Fatty's talent. And only with this journey will Little Fatty's true potential will be drawn out. Perhaps Little Fatty will one day become strong enough to set down a basis of strength to replace even you, Father." Xiaomi spoke. Elder Xiao shook his head. "No, I won't hand over my responsibilities to Little Fatty. This is only a cumbersome burden. And no matter how talented Little Fatty is, he is unsuited for this responsibility." "Why, Father? It can't be a matter of strength." Xiaomi protested. Elder Xiao sighed with a bit of a pained groan. "Your mother died because of the Bloodsword sect. Before her passing, she made me swear to not interfere with the continent. So from then on, I sought a quiet place to hide away, like the rest of the hermit clans. A place to live out the rest of my life in peace. No matter how strong a person's cultivation becomes, they will still end up as skeletons. Nothing but a false name is left after that. Your mother was wise to say that an unordinary, but peaceful life isn't a bad one. One shouldn't try to be so concerned about leaving a mark on the mortal world. Instead, they should try to live a life without worry." Elder Xiao sighed. "Father, how do you plan to deal with the Bloodsword sect then?" Xiaomi asked. Elder Xiao grew silent for a moment. "I can tell that Jinshin isn't a bad choice. He's outstanding in almost every aspect, and his potential is quite terrifying to say the least. If he's able to become a Heaven Saint Master at that young age, then I can say that he won't be inferior to me in the future." Flying over the mountains, Jinshin carried Little Fatty through the sky, quickly bypassing the cross mountains. The tiger cub on Jinshin's shoulder had already long since woken up. It glanced around with great bright eyes. "MRRR." Suddenly, the cub let out an excited cry as it unfolded its wings. Leaping off of Jinshin's shoulder, it disappeared into the verdant forests down below. Not even a moment later, it came flying back to Jinshin's shoulder with a fruit in its mouth. Jinshin was rather startled by what the cub did, but he laughed in the end. "I had thought that your wings were just for decoration, but it seems that flight with them is possible. That's a first." Little Fatty looked at the tiger cub on Jinshin's shoulder. "Jinshin, I can tell that this cub is very strong. Is it a Class 5 magical beast already?" "Correct. It became a Class 5 magical beast cub several days ago." "Little Fatty, I recall that you've never seen a high-class magical beast before. How were you able to tell the cub's strength?" Jinshin asked curiously. Little Fatty laughed. At one point Grandpa took me to some strange place, where I had to kill all sorts of magical beasts time after time. I'm familiar with a Class 5 magical beast now, so it's only natural that I know how strong it is. At that moment, Jian Shen's face grew grim, and his body came to a sudden halt in the middle of the air. His face also darkened for some strange reason. The reason for this strange occurrence was because his blood had suddenly started to bubble, as if it was boiling water. This abnormality quickly spread throughout his body, causing his body temperature to increase. Jianshan, what's wrong? Little Fatty was at a loss of words. He had no idea why Jianshan was acting this way. Jianshan did not respond, since even he didn't know what was going on with his body. It was the first time he had experienced such a sensation. Could there be a problem with the chaotic body? Jianshan thought. But even as he finished that thought, the two sword spirits immediately answered him. Master, the blood within your body has the antivenom factor from the golden-striped silver snake. This is a reaction caused by that antivenom. Since the golden-striped silver snake is a rare being, the two sides definitely have an attraction to one another. There has to be one of those snakes nearby. Presumably a strong one. Class 7 magical beast at a guess. Ziying spoke. A change overcame Jianshan's face, but he did not say a second word about it, as he immediately left the area. A golden-striped silver snake was extremely strong. It was also hard to come by. He had Little Fatty with him, so Jianshan didn't wish for some sort of conflict to happen. Quickly leaving the Cross Mountains, Jianshan headed straight for Mercenary City without pause. After 2 days they finally arrived. As soon as he entered the city, Jianshan headed straight to the inn where Wang Yufeng and Patriarch Jetta were residing. Exchanging several words with Wang Yufeng, he introduced everyone to one another. However, he did not divulge Jetta Tai's identity and gave a careless introduction when it was his turn. After the introductions were made, Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty became quick friends. Soon enough, they were laughing and chatting with one another, as if they had always been friends. Jianshan took Jetta Tai to another room to talk. After giving several heavenly resources to the tiger cub to let it fall asleep, he said to Jetta Tai, "Come with me to the Cross Mountains." "What? The Cross Mountains?" Jetta Tai cried out loud with great fear. Refusing Jianshan, he said, "Out of the question. That is a forbidden zone to even the strongest of the continent. One couldn't go there unless one was a Saint King." Knowing that Jetta Tai was afraid, Jianshan explained, "Rest assured, we won't be going deep inside. It'll only be the outside perimeter. I know the dangers of the mountains, so we won't be going to our deaths." Knowing that they wouldn't be going to the depths of the mountains, Jetta Tai sighed in relief. "As long as we don't go too deep in, and don't cause too much trouble, that's fine. But what in the world are you going there for?" "There's no time to waste. Come with me for now. You'll understand when we get there." Jianshan placed the sleeping cub on the bed and turned around to leave the room with Jetta Tai right behind him. After leaving the room, Jianshan mentioned to Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty that he and Jetta Tai would be leaving Mercenary City. After that, they rushed to the Cross Mountains. Chapter 634. Meeting another golden-striped silver snake 2 days later in the vast sky above the Cross Mountains. 2 figures could be seen streaking by at sound-breaking speed. They came to a stop at a nearby mountain peak. "It should be near here." As his robes flapped around due to the rapid winds, Jianshan spoke in a serious voice while his eyes scanned the ground with rapt attention. Jetta Tai was wearing a white robe as he floated right next to Jianshan. An elegant aura pervaded his body as his bright spirited eyes looked all around. "Jianshan, what are you planning on doing here, killing a strong magical beast?" "There's a rather strong golden-striped silver snake nearby. I wish to see if we can make it submit," Jianshan softly replied. At the mention of a golden-striped silver snake, Jetta Tai's expression froze with shock. A golden-striped silver snake is considered a part of the royal family of snakes. They're a rare breed even on the continent, and even in the historical past, they were said to be extremely strong in battle. Their venom is said to be extremely toxic, perhaps one of the top 3 most venomous. Dealing with one is no simple task, let alone trying to make it submit. Unless you find one in its childhood, it'll be unwilling to submit to you thanks to its sentient nature. Jianchen was more than aware of the logic that Jeditai spoke, but he nodded his head after some thought anyways. A golden-striped silver snake is far too rare on the continent. Whether we'll be able to make one submit is up in the air still. Jeditai, you stay here and keep guard. I'll find its nest and call out to you if I require help. Don't be reckless. The venom of a golden-striped silver snake is extremely potent. Not a single antidote in this world would be able to cure it. You might have a strong body, but you haven't even grasped the powers of space. If you met a Class 6 magical beast, there's no way you'll be able to deal with the venom it spits out. If that venom hits you, that'll be trouble. Jeditai spoke in a grim manner. Although he was extremely displeased with becoming a lackey for Jianchen, Jeditai was a far-sighted person. He knew that Jianchen's talent was absolutely terrifying, and if he continued to follow him, there would perhaps be exceptional rewards for him in the end. It was unclear if Jianchen would break through to become a Saint King as he said before. But if he did, then Jeditai would have managed to secure a strong patron for his clan. It wouldn't hurt to try. I've a way to protect myself from its venom after all. Jianchen carelessly replied. Since he had managed to form the 1,000 immunity long ago, his chaotic body naturally benefited from its strong anti-venom property. Jianchen left Jeditai to stand guard while he went off by himself to look for the lair of the golden-striped silver snake. Jianchen could also use his presence and bubbling sensation of his blood to search the surrounding 10 kilometers for the snake. Soon enough, he finally ended up at a mountain ridge 10 kilometers away. With his presence surrounding the entire area, Jianchen found a hidden hole. His presence infiltrated the depths of the cave, but he didn't discover any signs of the snake inside. It's without a doubt worthy of being a Class 7 magical beast, Jianchen muttered. His figure dropped down from the sky to reach the cave. He slammed the stone hiding the hole into pieces before striding in. The depths of the cave were extensive with plenty of curving passageways. The interior was also very dark. One wouldn't even be able to see their own hands in front of their faces. However, it bore no problems to Jianchen, who could see clearly in the cave as if it were day. Following the passageway for 100 meters, Jianchen finally arrived in a 1,000-meter-wide cave. The walls of the cave were scattered with fist-sized night pearls. They lit the cave with a soft white light, giving it the feeling of night time. At the center of the cave was a 2-meter-tall stone altar, and wrapped around that altar was a 2-meter-long snake. A strand of gold and silver streaked across its finger-width back, and its thumb-sized snake head was raised high into the air, cautiously staring at the unexpected guest. Jianchen smiled at the gold snake. He knew that despite its small size, it was not to be underestimated. Clasping his hands together in greeting, he said, "This one is Jianchen. I came here today to visit. If I offended you with my visit, I hope you won't take offense. Human, you are a brave one to dare intrude on my home. Do you wish to die?" The golden snake lifted its mouth open just slightly to hiss out several words in the human tongue. Its voice echoed around the cave, but the sharp tone made it difficult for Jianchen to determine if it was male or female. Almost as if he was completely unfazed by the snake's threat, Jianchen continued to smile. "This one came here to visit your distinguished self for a specific reason. I have an item that I wish to offer you. An item I'm sure would provide no small amount of help to you." The snake's eyes flickered slightly as it said, "I can sense the smell of my kin on your body. You've used the blood of my kin to create the 1,000 immunity." "Correct. I came across a young golden-striped silver snake once before in the magical Beast Mountain range. After a great battle, I was able to obtain its body and use its lifeblood to forge the 1,000 immunity. Its body has been left in my possession ever since, left in perfect condition and without use." Jianchen took out the clean carcass of the snake from his space ring. Since there was no air in space rings, items could be stored indefinitely in them. Thus, Jianchen had been able to keep the corpse in his ring without it ever decaying, keeping it as fresh as the day he killed it. As soon as the golden-striped silver snake saw the carcass of its own kin in Jianchen's hand, its eyes immediately revealed a bright gleam. There was a flash of gold as its body sprung toward Jian Chen's. It snapped its jaws to try and take away the carcass. Smiling, Jian Chen used the illusionary flash to travel several meters away, to dodge the surprise attack of the snake. With a shake of his hand, the carcass of the dead snake was returned to his space ring. Hiss! The snake's tongue flicked from its mouth, as its entire body disappeared once more in a flash of gold. It shot toward Jian Chen again. Its mouth opened wide to show off its sharp teeth, as if to tear away Jian Chen's throat. Allowing the chaotic force to cover his body with a single thought, Jian Chen made use of the defensive might of the chaotic body to form a fist with his hand. He then punched the snake head-on. Bang! There a muffled sound appeared when the fist connected with the snake. The entire cave shook unsteadily from the power, but Jian Chen's fist remained unharmed. The snake, on the other hand, was sent flying away. It smashed against the wall behind it, leaving behind a giant crater. After this single exchange, the golden-striped silver snake realized that Jian Chen would not be as easy to deal with as it initially thought. Floating into the air without a problem, the snake glared at Jian Chen with venomous eyes. You might not be weak, but you are still no match for me. Hand over the body of my kin to me, or face death. Jian Chen tried to shake the numb feeling in his right arm. He was slightly shocked at the defensive might the snake boasted. This one came here specifically to visit your distinguished self with a gift, but there's no such thing as a free meal. I cannot give the item to you so freely. Then what is it that you wish to take from me? The snake questioned. I want you to follow me for 10 years. I'll give you the item after that period of time. Jian Chen answered. A malevolent glare entered the snake's eyes as killing intent began to leak from its body. With a furious laugh, it hissed. Human, you are far too naive. Do you really think the high and mighty newbies would follow you for 10 years? Even a Saint King has no right to ask, let alone you. Jian Chen laughed in return. I presume you know far more than I do, that the carcass of your own kin is extremely important to you. A golden-striped silver snake is a beast of antiquity. Even its body is filled with strange oddities. What separates one from any other regular magical beast is that it can devour its own kin to evolve. Not only does your strength increase, even your fighting strength is elevated. It's unfortunate that golden-striped silver snakes are extremely rare on the continent. Meeting one is already hard enough. I'd say this puts an end to your hopes of devouring another one of your kin to increase your strength. So, the carcass that I hold should be an unbelievable chance for you. Although it was a Class 3 magical beast when I killed it, it should still be a benefit to you. I will give it to you in exchange for 10 years of your time. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Human, you speak correctly. Devouring my own kin allows us to grow due to the hidden essence that only we golden-striped silver snakes can process. As long as that is absorbed, this origin essence grants us a great boon. To absorb enough of that origin essence is to allow us to evolve into a divine beast from legends. What you might not know, human, is that I can easily take the skin from your dead corpse once I kill you. As it finished speaking, the snake's body began to go through a series of permutations in the air. In a flash, it became a young man with a rather skinny build. He wore a golden robe and possessed golden irises. His hair was also long and golden, giving him the look of an handsome male. From his appearance, the male looked no older than Jian Chen. Do you really think you can kill me? Jian Chen replied as he stood his ground. Chapter 635. The great newbie's Jian Chen's words were clearly meant to provoke the golden-striped silver snake, a snake that held a mighty position as royalty of all snakes. The golden eyes of the snake in human form gleamed scarlet for a single second, as killing intent exploded from its body. Coldly the man said, Human, if you have such confidence in yourself, allow the great newbies to see just how strong you are. And with those words, a golden flash was seen as the man flew forward. Following his charge was a bright silver light, as if a goddess had illuminated the area with a flowery glow. With the speed of lightning, the male shot toward Jian Chen. Before Jian Chen could dodge, Jian Chen was covered with strands of silver that began to weave around his body. In the blink of an eye, he was completely cocooned in the silver strands as if he were a silkworm. As soon as strands wrapped themselves around Jianchen, they began to tighten around his body. Each strand was like a silvery steel as it covered every inch of Jianchen's body. They were all as sharp as the edge of a blade. With Jianchen nestled inside, he felt countless of blades cutting deep into his body. And if not for his chaotic body and its defenses, he would have been reduced to mincemeat long ago. The chaotic force circulated around Jianchen's body, protecting every inch of him. He let out a sudden grunt and shook his body, causing the silver strands to be shaken off his body and away into the air. Looking to the golden-striped silver snake, Jianchen said, "It seems that the famed golden-striped silver snake only amounts to this much. Show your full strength or suffer defeat at my hands." Jianchen used the illusionary flash to immediately charge at the youth with an outstretched fist. "The strength of your body is astonishing to even me. Are you truly a human?" The male spoke with surprise. His eyes were leveled calmly at the fist coming at him. He received it with a powerful fist of his own. Boom! When the two fists clashed, a powerful explosion rocked the cave as a wave of energy burst away from the impact zone. The entire cave shook to its foundations as stones fell one by one from the ceiling. In every corner of the cave, several fractures could be seen starting to spread. The golden-robed youth was sent flying from the punch before impacting against the cave wall behind him. Another crater was formed upon impact, and the youth's body sank deep into the wall. Despite the young man being a transformed state of the golden-striped silver snake, it still boasted a powerful defense and equally powerful strength. Even that wasn't enough to contend with the strength of the chaotic body that Jianchen used. As the young golden-robed man walked out of the crater, it looked a little worse for wear. However, there were no inherent injuries to his body, and his face was several shades more serious. He no longer showed that previous disdain for Jianchen. Instead, he stared at his slightly shaking right arm in shock. This time, it had been the snake that had eaten up a loss. "No wonder you are known as a beast of antiquity. Your body is so strong that my fist didn't break your arm." Jianchen laughed. He was rather surprised to experience the strength of a Class 7 magical beast. Compared to a saint ruler, the contrast in strength was far too much. "Your flesh is enough to stop even mine. But how? Humans shouldn't possess strength like that. Are you a half-breed? Or a war god from the ancient by clans?" The snake questioned. No longer was there as much confidence in his voice. "What war god from the ancient by clans? I have no idea what you're talking about. I am a genuine human." Jianchen laughed. "Impossible. How could a human possess a body like that? It's stronger than even the flesh of a magical beast." The snake snapped unconfidently. Quirking his lips, Jianchen replied, "How about it then? Why don't you think over my previous suggestion? Follow me for 10 years, and I'll give you the carcass of your kin. That's the only way you'll be getting it since you have no way of killing me." The snake's face grew darker and darker the more it listened to Jianchen. "Wishing for the great newbies to follow you for 10 years is no easy task. The battle has only started. Even if your body is strong, I still have plenty ways of harming or disposing of you." "Is that right? Then please allow this one to experience your guidance." Jianchen laughed. Using the illusionary flash to get close to the snake, Jianchen brought forth a tremendous amount of chaotic force into his fist and slammed it onto the male's chest. Following the wake of his fist was a series of ripples in space itself, showing just how strong the punch was. After experiencing a lost-the-last exchange, the snake knew just how troublesome Jianchen's fist was. He no longer wished to take it head-on. Using the powers of space to travel behind Jianchen, a flash of golden scales could be seen covering the male's right fist. Forming a claw with it, the snake flashed forward to grab Jianchen's back. PFT. As soon as the sharp claws of the male's hand made contact with Jianchen's chaotic body, they were stopped. The tips were unable to penetrate Jianchen's skin. It was almost like there was some sort of energy blocking them, causing the male to be unable to move any further. A brilliant gleam entered Jianchen's eyes as he swallowed another burst of chaotic force from his dantian. A burst of energy flew forth from his body, as wildly as a rampaging horse. He moved his hand to slam the 5 fingertips of the male whose claw was touching him. The male trembled briefly, before he took back his claw hand with lightning-quick speed. There was a slight aching pain from his fingertips, causing the male to feel alarmed. He knew that this feeling meant his finger bones had been broken. What power is this? How is he so strong? Perhaps he really is a war god from the ancient Bai clans? Aside from the war gods, no other human could possibly have such strength or power. The snake thought to himself, completely befuddled. Unwilling to give the golden-robed male any more time to think, Jianchen flew forward. His fist moved through the air to deliver yet another stunning strike. However, the male used the powers of space to escape 10 meters away, gain some room, but his actions had been predicted by Jianchen. He used the illusionary flash to arrive in front of the male with his fist still traveling unimpeded. A crimson light entered the golden irises of the male. Unable to dodge, its only option left was to take the blow. With his arms an equal distance apart, the energy of the world began to gather in between the open space of his hands. Strand by strand, a mysterious power began to gather from the surrounding world into the center of his hands. He then pushed the mysterious power toward Jianchen's incoming fist. Chapter 636. The penultimate compromise. The golden-robed youngster's worldly energy-filled fist clashed with Jianchen's chaotic force-filled fist, but not a sound could be heard. Instead, a tremendous wave of energy splashed out and ravaged the area. The cave itself collapsed, reduced to rubble. With the cave falling apart, pieces of the mountain came crashing down from the ceiling. With dust and stone everywhere, the visibility was reduced to nothing. There were practically no footholds for the two combatants to stand, leaving them with no other choice but to fly. Holes, that traveled so deep they disappeared into an abyss, littered the area because of the destruction they caused. The night pearls that had adorned the walls of the cave had long since been reduced to dust, leaving the area in perpetual darkness. A faint cyan glow surrounded Jianchen's body, a sign of the wind element being used. The wind allowed his body to fly up into the air. At the same time, the origin energy of the sword spirits manifested in his hand. It formed a 20-meter-long spirit sword that he used to cut apart the remnants of the cave ceiling to get a clear view of the sky. Similarly, there was golden glow around the other male. Turning back into a 2-meter-long golden snake, it flashed into the air in a golden blur and broke straight through the cave ceiling to reach the open sky above. After freeing himself, he turned back into his human form. In just a few seconds, Jianchen and the golden-robed male had gone from a fight in the cave to a fight in the sky outside. Far below them, the previously giant mountain sank down into itself. The forest was ravaged several dozen kilometers around the cave, as if doomsday had struck. A white figure watched the spectacle in the sky from far away. This figure was Jetta Tai, the patriarch of the Jetta clan. Even his interest was piqued by what was happening. That golden-robed youth has the aura of a magical beast to him. Perhaps it's a Class 7 magical beast that can take human form? If it's a Class 7 magical beast, could it possibly be the golden-striped silver snake? The patriarch wondered aloud to himself, full of curiosity. The golden-striped silver snake was an extremely rare beast on the continent, and the patriarch had only heard about them even though he had lived a long time. He had never seen one in real life until today, and it was a Class 7 one too. If it's a Class 7 magical beast, then a saint ruler could use the powers of space to avoid the venom it spits out. But even against a Class 7 golden-striped silver snake, that would no advantage at all. The snake is still a strong one even without its venom. Is Jianchen even capable of fighting one? Jetta Tai muttered with furrowed eyebrows. A Class 7 golden-striped silver snake was something that gave him a tremendous headache. When he thought about how immense Jianchen's bodily strength was, the patriarch felt a little relieved. But Jianchen himself is a unique person as well. His defenses are an absolute abnormality, and even my strongest blows were unable to leave lasting injuries. I can see that this golden-striped silver snake has reached the 6th heavenly layer. It will be hard for it to hurt Jianchen. But still, stories of meeting a Class 7 golden-striped silver snake would be taken as the ravings of a madman. Countless of kilometers away, Jian Chun and the golden-robed man stood an equal 100 meters away from one another in the sky. Jian Chun had a very calm look on his face. The other male was staring at Jian Chun with a rather grim but concentrated look. This Jian Chun in front of him was a hard enemy to fight. Although the snake himself was a very strong creature with equally strong defenses, he found it very difficult to strike down this foe, to take the carcass of his dead kin. What gave him the biggest headache was the fact that Jian Chun had managed to gain the 1000 immunity, making him immune to even his venom. A Class 7 magical beast was far stronger than a Class 3 magical beast, but the venom was still unable to harm Jian Chun. You should understand by now that you cannot kill me, nor can you steal away what I own. The only way to earn it is by following me for 10 years. 10 years is nothing to a being like you. It's an infinitesimally small loss with extremely huge returns. Take your time to consider it. Jian Chun goaded. Growing silent, the golden-robed man stared ahead with bright eyes that gave no hints to what he was thinking. After waiting for some time, Jian Chun said, I have very little time to waste around here. I'll give you a few more moments to think. If you're still unwilling, I'll be taking my leave with this item, taking away your only chance of earning this treasure. If I step back into the human world, you'll be hard-pressed to find me. The fists of the golden-robed man clenched as hints of scarlet entered his eyes. Just faintly, a strong urge to kill could be felt radiating from him. Sensing the killing intent of the snake, Jian Chun sneered. I know that your true strength isn't just this, but you've experienced how strong my body is firsthand. You cannot kill me. You cannot wound me. If I wish to leave, you have no way of stopping me. And to reinforce the matter, I've another strong companion nearby. Human, I am a being of the magical beasts. Would my travels with you in the human world not cause you to fear the troubles that accompany me? The male spat. Shaking his head, Jian Chun replied, There are plenty of magical beasts living in the human world. Many of them are strong. I know there is a treaty between the strongest of the human world with your magical beast clans, but this only applies to those of the Gilligan clan. You aren't of the Gilligan clan, so there would be no trouble for you to travel in the human world. You know quite a bit of information, but how did you come to know that I'm not of the Gilligan clan? The male asked. Smiling, Jian Chun replied, The strongest that humanity has to offer has prohibited Class 7 magical beasts of the Gilligan clan from stepping beyond the Cross Mountains. You're a Class 7 magical beast, yet you live so close to the exterior of the mountain range. Furthermore, you fought with me without worrying about humans coming after you. I could tell from that you're not of the Gilligan clan. To ignore these hints would mean I, Jian Chun, am an ignorant fellow. You speak correct. I am not of the Gilligan clan. At the mention of that clan, the golden-robed man had a look of disdain enter his eyes. The Gilligan clan is nothing more than a chess piece placed on the Tianyuan continent from the Divine Beast continent. How could I, the great newbies, be a chess piece for another? The male pridefully stuck out his chest. Jian Chun refrained from smiling when he heard how the snake referred to itself. The snake in front of him was clearly a prideful one, similar to the aristocratic sons of nobility. But instead of being proud of being rich, the snake was prideful of its strength and its heritage as a beast of antiquity. We've already gone past the time limit. What is your decision? The snake grew silent. He was an inherently prideful being. He felt it beneath his station to work as an attendant to another, but he desperately coveted the dead corpse of his own kin. He knew that if he could absorb the origin essence, he would be able to grow much stronger, which made it difficult to give up on the idea. Very well, human. You win. I, the great newbies, will travel with you for 10 years. Once those 10 years are up, we will have nothing to do with one another. The male compromised. Since the carcass of his dead kin was far too important, he would not refuse the offer. Good, that's settled then. Jian Chun smiled happily. A Class 7 magical beast as a new entree to his ranks would tremendously increase the strength of the flame mercenaries. Even the sect of Dragon and Tiger would be completely intimidated by one. Let us make one thing clear first. In our 10 years together, I will not do any heartless tasks or anything that I am not willing to do. The male spoke. Jian Chun nodded his head after thinking for a moment. No problem. I can promise you that. But in return, you will not stand by the sidelines if there is any trouble that comes our way. Deal. The snake felt that this deal was a good one. He agreed with Jianchen as a result. A smile reached Jianchen's face at that. Although the snake would only follow him for 10 years, 10 years was far more than enough for him to finish what he needed to do. Jianchen took out the corpse of the golden-striped silver snake he had killed years ago from his space ring, and threw it to the other male. This is yours. As the corpse floated over to the male's sharp eyes stared at it with excitement. Turning to look at Jianchen, he asked, "You have that much faith in me? Are you not afraid that I would renege on the deal? You're of the royal family of the snakes with pride beyond all else. Your word would be equivalent to the 9 sacred tripods. I am of the belief you are a being of your word." A great big smile appeared on the male's face. "I am fond of these words. I, the great newbies, am not a being that speaks empty promises. Worry not. When I say 10 years, I mean 10 years and not a day less." Chapter 637. Epiphany. Laughing, Jianchen smiled. "I'm Jianchen. You can call me by that name from now on. Your name is Newbies, I take it? I'll be calling you that from now on as well." The completion of his mission made Jianchen extremely happy. After exchanging several happy words with Newbies, the two enemies became a group that would later be fighting shoulder to shoulder in battle. Jianchen and Newbies flew toward Jeditai, who was waiting for them several kilometers away in the air. When Jianchen saw the astounded look on the patriarch's face, he couldn't help but give a wry grin. "From now on we are all part of a family. Allow me to introduce everyone then. This is the Class 7 golden-striped silver snake Newbies. This is a saint ruler Jeditai." "The great Newbies," the male corrected Jianchen in dissatisfaction. "It is an honor to meet you, the great Newbies." Up against a golden-striped silver snake, Jeditai did not desire to be negligent of his manners. He made sure to cup his hands in respect. While he was calm on the outside, his mind was in disarray. In truth, he found it hard to believe that Jianchen had managed to make a foe like the golden-striped silver snake submit to him, especially since a Class 7 magical beast was by no means easy to fight. Attentively, Newbies stared at Jeditai for a moment before haughtily saying, "Third heavenly layer, your strength is just barely adequate." A series of color changes washed over Jeditai's face at those words. He was angered by the words of Newbies, and if it were a human saint ruler that had said them, then he would have immediately become hostile. However, just thinking about how different a golden-striped silver snake was, he had no other choice but to quash his anger down enough for it to not show on his face. He didn't have the 1000 immunity, which could negate the snake's venom, like Jianchen did. The venom from a Class 7 magical beast was far more than what Jeditai could take. "The great Newbies, sire. This one will be a comrade in arms in the upcoming times with you. I hope that you and him will be able to get along and avoid any conflict." Jianchen spoke. He felt rather unhappy at the contemptuous words Newbies said when he spoke to Jeditai. Although Jeditai was his lackey now, he was still a saint ruler that brokered far too much power and dignity to be ridiculed. "Very well then." Newbies shrugged his shoulders. He was a being that was inherently proud, so it was only when Jianchen asked that he would bother trying to tone it down. Jeditai felt slightly relieved when Jianchen spoke. A simple phrase caused Jeditai to look at Jianchen in a slightly better light. Now he was a little more accepting of his lowly status. Afterward, the three of them didn't bother to stay in the area much longer. They flew toward Mercenary City. Not too long after the three left, a purple-robed elder appeared out of nowhere. His eyes stared at the three retreating figures as he muttered to himself, "Only a year has passed since I last saw him. Yet Jianchen's strength has already progressed so much that even that little snake cannot harm him. How truly astounding, but how is his body that strong? Is he really a reincarnation of one of the war gods from the ancient clans?" Thinking for a moment, the elder then shook his head. His body and the special characteristics of the war gods of the past are completely different. He must have used some sort of secret technique to gain such a strong physique. If a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler is unable to inflict a mortal wound on him, Then it seems that I'll be able to feel at ease while little fatty travels with him. He will be able to achieve the goals I have for him soon enough, I hope." At this, the figure of the elder gradually faded away from the world. In the end, his body could no longer be called the body of a human. It was more like a construct made from the powers of the world. For 2 days, the 3 men traveled back to Mercenary City in a hurry. However, only Jeditai and Jianshan had entered the city, while newbies stood 1,000 meters away from the barrier. Mercenary City prohibited any high-class magical beasts from entering. It only allowed mounts free entry. Jianshan was worried something had happened back at home, since his half of the jade slip had broken. Thus, instead of staying in Mercenary City for a moment longer, Jianshan directed Little Fatty and Wang Yufeng to hurry out to regroup with newbies. As Jianshan approached newbies once more, the snake gave a sudden start. Both of his eyes swung to the tiger cub that was resting on Jianshan's shoulder, with a look of absolute shock. Impossible. It has appeared once more in this world. As soon as he saw the tiger cub, newbies immediately cried out without a single bit of his previous regal dignity to be heard. Despite the tiger cub being only a weak class 5 magical beast that newbies would normally disregard, the origins of the cub were something overwhelmed newbies. The power that ran through the bloodline of the tiger cub was far too massive. Newbies swore that not once in his life had he ever felt such a domineering pressure. Even a class 8 magical beast, the magical beast equivalent of a Saint King in the human world, would not be able to force newbies to feel this very intense, dreadful pressure. It was a pressure that shook his soul to its very core so that he wouldn't dare rebel. In fact, he even felt the urge to kneel down on his knee to swear his allegiance to the cub. As a golden-striped silver snake, Newbies was a class 7 magical beast that knew plenty of the world. He understood just what sort of existence this magical beast was to possess such tremendous power. Combined with the special characteristics of the cub, Newbies was sure of its true identity. But even still, he was completely dumbfounded by the revelation. Jianshan could tell that Newbies had learned the truth of the tiger cub's identity from his reaction, but this outcome was something he had expected. Thus he was not surprised. "Oh great Newbies, I hope that you'll be able to safeguard this secret," Jianshan discreetly spoke to him. Still not yet fully recovered from his shock, Newbies continued to stare at the sleeping tiger cub a moment longer, before looking at Jianshan. "Jianshan, does this mean you know its identity?" Jianshan nodded his head, but the proximity of Jeditai, who was carrying Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty, made Jianshan pull Newbies away before he whispered, "Great Newbies, the winged tiger god is a divine beast of antiquity. It'll definitely become the true king of the magical beasts in the future. But since it is a cub, now would be the best time to foster friendly relations with it. This for you is a great opportunity. I believe you understand just how terrifying the winged tiger god is." Newbie's eyes filled with a bright light while he clenched his fists. He wasn't an ignoramus. Jianshan's words left him to ponder to himself even more than before. He knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime event that he couldn't possibly hope to miss. The strength of a winged tiger god was something that far surpassed any human he knew of. In the case that the winged tiger god matured fully, not a single force in this world would be able to stop it. "Worry not, I know what must be done," Newbies reassured Jianshan. Letting out a sigh of relief, Jianshan smiled. "Let's go then." Afterward, Jianshan and the others traveled toward the Qinhuang kingdom. Newbies had been very quick to regain his regular calm, but every so often, as they traveled through the sky, his eyes could be seen lingering on the tiger cub with a hint of fear. Newbies' earlier loss of composure had been noticed by Jeditai. He now kept his eyes on the tiger cub on Jianshan's shoulder. He had noticed the cub earlier, but had took it to be a small cub that Jianshan was fostering. Thus, he didn't bother wasting any thoughts about it. But Newbies' reaction made him realize he was a bit too hasty when he made his evaluation. What history does this magical beast youngling have to cause an ancient beast like the golden-striped silver snake to be at a loss like this? Jeditai thought to himself in curiosity, wondering what the tiger cub was. As Jianshan and his entourage were en route to the Qinhuang kingdom, The stalwart middle-aged man from last time was seated in yet another private room of a building in a first-class city in the kingdom closest to Mercenary City. Right in front of him was the same old man that had greeted him last time. "Respectful sir, there was an important message that had to be reported straight away. Our spy has made a concise report that Jianshen has left Mercenary City. He is traveling in the direction of the Qinhuang Kingdom. According to what we know, the Qinhuang Kingdom most recently gained another imperial protector that goes by the name Jianshen. It would be my guess that they're the same person," the elder informed the man. A brilliant light entered the seated man's eyes as he said, "This information isn't half bad. You've done well. Take this. Consider it your reward, and the surplus a bonus." Throwing down an exquisite space ring onto the table, the man left the room. After 2 days' worth of traveling over thousands and thousands of kilometers, Jianshen's group finally managed to make it to the edges of the Qinhuang Kingdom. Without any time to rest, the group headed for the palace. Unbeknownst to them, an extremely faint image floated several thousand meters overhead, looking down on the group. This image looked similar to the middle-aged man, but his face was extremely sinister. "Winged Tiger God, I finally found you," the man excitedly spoke. Chapter 638. The Return. The middle-aged man's eyes lingered on the winged tiger cub on Jianshen's chest. As big as the continent was, he had been able to learn of the winged tiger god by accident, causing him to feel extremely excited. Half a moment later, the middle-aged man tore his eyes away from the tiger cub to look at the gold-cloaked newbies. As soon as newbie's figure registered in his eyes, the man let out a small start. That's newbies. Why is an ancient beast like him following this group?" For a moment, the man pondered to himself. With his strength, he has surely sensed the bloodline of the winged tiger god. He's made his choice to help the winged tiger god mature to adulthood, it seems. Pity. This choice will only lead him to the road of death. How unexpected to see a Class 7 golden-striped silver snake and a saint ruler following Jianshen around. I could kill them, but that'd alert the saint rulers in the Qinhuang Kingdom. With how close Mercenary City is, if one of their strongest found out that I've entered the human world, that'd spell the end for me. I'll have to retreat for now. Bah, I'll let you live another day. The man thought to himself before his transparent image began to fade away from its spot, and then out of sight. Jianshen and the others remained completely oblivious to the fact that they were being followed. Traveling toward the palace, the group then soon arrived at the entrance. At Jianshen's command, everyone landed on the ground and strode into the palace. As an imperial protector, Jianshen was a figure that was known to everyone. Not a single person moved to stop him. They instead bowed from their waists while they stood off to the side. Simultaneously, for enormous bursts of energy resonated from within the palace, as if 4 ancient beasts had awakened from their slumber. The entire area was filled with this aura, almost freezing time itself. For figures could be seen flying from each corner of the palace into the air above, and behind them, a crack in space itself could be seen. It was as if they were traveling within space instead of air. With unbelievable speed, the 4 figures surrounded Jianshen and the others. Jianshen pays his respects to the 4 seniors. Jianshen spoke with a calm smile to the ones around him. Since he knew that these 4 were the imperial protectors of the Qinhuang Kingdom and were saint rulers, he could speak without fear. In fact, he even knew 2 of the 4 already. "Jianshen, it's you," one of the middle-aged men spoke in surprise. Turning his eyes to the golden-robed newbies and Jietai, his eyebrows furrowed together. "Jianshen, who are these 2? With his strength, he could sense that the 2 figures in front of him were also saint rulers. "Seniors, these 2 are Jietai and newbies, 2 good friends of mine," Jianshen explained with a smile. The 4 imperial protectors looked on in uniform shock. They couldn't believe what Jianshen had said. They would never have thought that Jianshen would have yet another 2 saint ruler friends. This was a strength that even the Qinhuang Kingdom valued greatly. The great newbies. Newbies argued in annoyance. "Hee. Oh great newbies, you are truly so great. How could I be so blind to not see that?" Wang Yufeng cajoled from the side. As soon as Wang Yufeng spoke, Newbies took the words as a personal attack, an insult to his pride. To hear this from an insignificant ant that hadn't even yet lived for a fraction of his life, Newbie's inherent pride felt greatly insulted. Newbie's face darkened several shades as a hint of crimson light entered his eyes. An intimidating aura began to leak from his body. It moved toward Wang Yufeng before Newbies grabbed Wang Yufeng's throat with a hand. "Youngster," Newbies started coldly. "Do you even wish to live if you mutter these words? Do you not think the great Newbies will not kill you where you stand right now?" Wang Yufeng found it impossible to escape, or even move because of the death grip that Newbies had on his throat. A feeling of suffocation began to well up from his body. He started to feel as if he was on the verge of death. What had been even more terrifying was the fact that Newbies' eyes were scarlet, adding yet another factor of anger that struck fear into Wang Yufeng. "Newbies, what are you doing? Let go of him!" Jianshan barked out. The light in his eyes hardened, as if to become as sharp as the blade of a sword. Newbies' actions had startled even Jianshan, since Wang Yufeng was a member of their party instead of an enemy. Newbies turned an eye to look at Jianshan and shrugged. "Youngster, for the sake of giving some face to Jianshan, I'll spare your life. You will not speak to me with such a tone in the future. Remember that. Or else I, the great Newbies, will not hesitate to kill you no matter how good of a friend you are to Jianshan." Newbies released Wang Yufeng's throat, allowing his captive to drop to his knees and gasp for breath. Wang Yufeng's entire body was entirely drenched with sweat because of the previous situation. "You're not a human, you're a magical beast." One of the Imperial Protectors spoke. When Newbies released his aura, all 4 of the Imperial Protectors had been able to recognize his true identity. "Are you of the Gilligan clan?" another Imperial Protector asked. After he asked his question, the other 3 Imperial Protectors froze for a fraction of a second. Newbies gave a level stare at the 4 Imperial Protectors in front of him and proudly said, "Don't take the great Newbies for a being from the Gilligan clan. There is nothing between them and the great Newbies. For seniors, please don't misunderstand. Newbies may be a magical beast, but he isn't a member of the Gilligan clan. He is a friend of mine, and is by no means an outsider," Jianshan explained. Although he was unhappy with the fact that Newbies had let loose his arrogant attitude, it was far more pertinent to explain the situation and the relationship between Newbies and him, or else risk a misunderstanding. "If that's so, then he's no outsider to us as well." The 4 Imperial Protectors sighed in relief. However, in their hearts, they were curious how Jianshan had been able to make friends with such a powerful magical beast. Such a feat filled each and every single one of them with awe and even some envy. The natural fighting potential of a magical beast was far greater than their human counterparts. Some of the rarer magical beasts could even overstep the boundaries of rank and kill humans of a higher level. Just barely recovering from a near-death experience by Newbies, Wang Yufeng's entire body grew as rigid as a statue when he heard that Newbies was in fact a magical beast. Looking at Newbies with extreme terror, Wang Yufeng realized at that moment that this young golden-robed youth in front of him was a majestic Class 7 magical beast. A being that was on par with the saint rulers of the human world. A parade of footsteps could be heard at the same time, as well as a dense amount of soldiers came flying in from every direction possible. In the sky, 20-something Heaven Saint Masters appeared. They were the Imperial advisors that stayed behind to protect the palace while the others were away. These Imperial advisors had clearly been startled by the outburst of strength from the 4 Imperial advisors when they had made themselves known. The entire palace in fact had been made aware of their presence, which caused security to increase to the maximum. "Go back to what you were doing before," one Imperial Protector commanded with a calm voice that traveled into the ears of all the soldiers there. The dense crowd of soldiers soon trickled back into the palace, as if they were water. As soon as they appeared, all of them had left, leaving behind only the 20-something Heaven Saint Masters in the sky. Each one of them were looking at the 4 Imperial Protectors in shock. The 4 Imperial Protectors were generally hidden within the palace's cultivating. They'd only leave the palace once every 10 or so years to get some exercise. But to have all 4 of them appear at once was an extremely surprising sight. We pay our respects to the imperial protectors. The Heaven Saint Masters bowed respectfully. One of the imperial protectors waved his hands and replied, "You may leave." "Yes," the 20 Heaven Saint Masters replied before glancing curiously at the entourage behind Jian Shun, silently withdrawing. Each one of them was extremely curious despite their calm demeanors. These strangers had been enough to startle even the 4 imperial protectors. This meant that these strangers were definitely important people. "Jian Shun, I heard that you came across some trouble while in Mercenary City. Although we wanted to help you, the Qinhuang Kingdom was facing some dangers that we had to address. Thus, we could spare no time to help. We hope that you won't take offense to that." An imperial protector apologetically smiled at Jian Shun. It didn't matter if it was the feat Jian Shun had accomplished back in Mercenary City, or the fact that 2 saint rulers were traveling with him. The 4 of them couldn't risk mistreating Jian Shun right now. A great big smile appeared on Jian Shun's face before he began to make conversation with the 4 imperial protectors. After several words, he got to the main problem at hand. "Seniors, something is happening back within my homelands, so I must hurry back there right away. If we may speak another day." "That's fine. We won't take up Brother Jian Shun's time any longer if that's the case." Afterward, Jian Shun and the 3rd Prince Qin Ji managed to say their goodbyes. Then the 4 imperial protectors led Jian Shun's group to the space gate, where they would leave the kingdom from. Chapter 639. The leaking of the tungsten alloy deposit. The imperial advisors had made the preparations for Jian Shun's group to travel to the Heavenly Kingdom via the space gate some time ago. Thus, they were able to arrive there extremely fast. As soon as they stepped through the gate, Jian Shun's eyes swept the area only to realize that the palace was still the same as it always was. The only difference was the fact that there was a slightly cold and tense feeling throughout the place. All over the area, there were war banners flying high with mimicking the fire-red symbol of flame. Jian Shun was no stranger to these banners, since they marked the flame mercenaries. Suddenly, a series of footsteps quickly came echoing into the courtyard as several hundred men came flying toward Jian Shun, surrounding him and his group. As they moved to encircle them, the men glared viciously at Jian Shun. "Who are you? State your names at once." The leader of the group commanded. "Jian Shun." Jian Shun replied. Straight away the man's face froze. He was no stranger to this name, and was in fact quite familiar with it. That was the name of the captain after all. The leading captain concentrated on Jian Shun some more, before finally recognizing him. A startled look appeared on his face before he bowed his head down to his waist in salute. "Ah, so it was the captain. Your subordinate would have no eyes if I was unable to recognize the captain. Please forgive this one." The people around the captain recognized Jian Shun by this point as well. An immediate change overcame each and every single one of them, causing them to bow. "We pay our respects to the captain." Several hundred voices called out at once, breaking the monotonous silence in the palace. Hence, the entire palace now knew that Jian Shun was here, causing everyone to file toward his position. A faint azure glow made itself known as a young figure in white flew toward Jian Shun. When he came to a stop in front of him and saw Jian Shun's face, the figure smiled widely. "Jian Shun, you're finally back. Any longer, and I would have gone out to look for you." This youth was Ming Dong. "Jian Shun, you're back. Brother, you've come back." At the voice of Ming Dong, the voices of 2 women rang out. It was Yu, Huangwan, and Bai Lian that came rushing toward Jian Shun with joyous expressions. All of the higher-ranking members of the Flame Mercenaries gathered in the interior of the palace, so in no time at all, the empty space was quickly filled with people. Jian Shun gave several words of greeting to everyone, before he was guided into the grand halls. This specific hall was the hall where the nobles of the old Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had conducted business relating to the kingdom, but since the Flame Mercenaries had taken up residence, it had been repurposed and renamed to the Flames Hall. Jian Shun was seated on top of the golden throne in the middle of the hall with newbies, Jeditai, Wang Yufeng, and Little Fatty standing by his side without a word to say. Little Fatty was looking around filled with great curiosity. He had only just started to travel the continent, So every single thing he saw in this strange world was a new wonder to marvel. Beneath Jian Chun and them were the Heaven Saint Masters, Ming Dong, and the others of the Flame Mercenaries standing together. Jian Chun gave a cursory look around, as if preparing to say something. He then started off with an introduction of Jeditai and the others, but he only gave a brief introduction of their backgrounds. He did not mention how strong they were. After the introductions were finished, Jian Chun wasted no more words. He immediately got to the crux of the problem. Taking out the crushed jade piece he had in his space ring, he asked, "What was so serious for you to call me back using the twin jade stones?" "What else but about the tungsten alloy?" "Jian Chun, half a month ago, news of the vein was leaked to the world. The fact that the Flame Mercenaries are harboring a vein of tungsten alloy is making its way around so fast that everyone knows about it." Yu replied. Jian Chun smiled. "Paper can't resist being burned by fire. News that the tungsten alloy would be leaked was within my expectations, but I didn't think it'd be revealed so quickly. What plans have the ones that know about the tungsten alloy made so far?" "Ever since we garrisoned the Flame Mercenaries here, the strength of the 7 factions grew dramatically, especially with the Qinhuang Kingdom as support, but the surrounding kingdoms have grown jealous. While they haven't made any open plans just yet, there is still one problem. The sect of Dragon and Tiger." Bai Lian explained. She and Yu were very capable of managing the Flame Mercenaries, so Jian Chun had left the group in their care while he was away. While there were plenty of strong individuals in the Flame Mercenaries, where even Heaven Saint Masters were abundant, strength was not a decisive factor in regards to management. What was important was not talent in cultivation, but a sharp mind and intelligent soul. At the mention of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, a furious glare entered Jian Chun's eye. He could still remember the saint ruler of that sect had done to him, and he would never forget it either. "Does the sect of Dragon and Tiger hope to seize the tungsten alloy?" Jian Chun asked with an increasingly colder glare. If it were before, the sect of Dragon and Tiger would have brought a great deal of pressure onto him. However, right now, the saint ruler posed no problem at all to him. Yu nodded. "Correct. They want their portion of the soup, but their appetites are far too large. They've demanded 2/3 of the deposit. Naturally, we refused. Maybe it's because they fear the Qinhuang Kingdom, but they didn't do anything after our refusal. They instead gave us 7 days to think it over. Brother, the sect of Dragon and Tiger want to see just how the Qinhuang Kingdom will treat this affair. We've already made a detailed report on the strength of the sect of Dragon and Tiger compared to our Flame Mercenaries. We've concluded that our Flame Mercenaries don't have the power to refuse them. I'm afraid that if the Qinhuang Kingdom doesn't partake in this, then the sect of Dragon and Tiger will simply take the deposit straight from our hands." Bai Lian spoke. "Bai Lian is right, Jian Chun. Our only guarantee to the deposit is if the Qinhuang Kingdom helps us. Our only connection to them is through you, and with how there's no time to lose, we had no other choice but to call you back using the twin jade pieces." Yu gave her input with a serious voice. This matter with the sect of Dragon and Tiger had given her a tremendous headache. "How many days has it been since they gave us 7 days?" Jian Chun asked. "It's been 6 days already. Tomorrow is the very last day." Ming Dong grimly answered. A cold sneer appeared on Jian Chun's face at that response. "If that's the case, then we'll just wait for the sect of Dragon and Tiger to come. There's no need for everyone to worry. I'll handle the matter myself." Everyone had let out a sigh of relief when Jian Chun replied. They did not doubt in his words at all. Even those not of his inner circle knew of his other identity. He was the imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom, one of the 8 great empires. Just how could a person like that give his word so easily without the strength to back it up? With the problem regarding the sect of Dragon and Tiger resolved, everyone split up at the suggestion of Jian Chun. Soon enough, the grand halls of the palace became eerily empty, with only a scant few people remaining. Standing up from his throne, Jian Chun looked to Ming Dong, and then the rest. In the months they had been apart, Yu and Bai Lian both were the most fatigued-looking of the group. The past several days of managing the mercenaries must have taken a considerable amount of energy from them. To apologize, Jian Chun gave a small smile. You Lianer, the past few days must have been hard on you. Perhaps I shouldn't have thrown such a burdensome task to you too. I can tell that you two are far more exhausted than when I last saw you two. Bai Lian gave a sweet smile in response to him. Brother, don't worry about me. The Flame Mercenaries is just at the developing stage, since it only recently was formed, so there's lots to do. It should become easier with time. I'll be sure to find some people who are adept in management and are trustworthy. With such people around to help, that'll alleviate some of your pressure. Jianshan proposed. Brother, I've already considered finding someone. There's quite a number of people I think would be good at managing others. Zhang Tian in particular. Bai Lian replied. Zhang Tian? Jianshan was alarmed. He remembered this man, since he was the captain of the Carnage Mercenaries. Zhang Tian is a dependable person. Let's have him undertake this responsibility then. Jianshan spoke after some time to think. Got it. Afterward, Jianshan took out a small fist-sized fruit from his space ring and handed it to Bai Lian with a smile. Lianer, this is a geofruit, a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. I bought this in an auction house in Mercenary City to help change your cultivation. Once you eat this fruit, your body will become extremely suitable for cultivation. In the future, you'll find almost no obstacles in your path. Brother, you must have spent so much money for this. Bai Lian was deeply moved. Her eyes stared at the geofruit in front of her with the slight hint of tears starting to form. Unable to stop himself from smiling, Jianshan replied, Money is of no concern. As long as it'll benefit Lianer, then all the money spent is worth it. From the side, newbies stared at the geofruit in Jianshan's hand. Using a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource to change the body of an ordinary person. What a spendthrift you are. This is a treasure even saint rulers use to prolong their lives. Jianshan, let's make another deal. If you give this geofruit to me, I'll follow you around for another 3 years. In the human world, the geofruit was a treasure, but it wasn't extinct. Every year in Mercenary City another heavenly resource of the same level would appear. But as a magical beast, newbies couldn't simply walk into Mercenary City. Therefore, obtaining a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource became a whole lot harder. It was practically impossible to gain one in the human world as a magical beast. The Cross Mountains had plenty of 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, but those were carefully seized by the Gilligan clan. Hence, Newbies himself was unable to take any. While he was a Class 7 magical beast, obtaining a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource wasn't easy for him. Jianshan shook his head without even a second consideration. This geofruit is for Lianer. If you still need one, I'll buy one in Mercenary City when the time comes. If that is what you say, let it be then. Newbies was placated. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource had the ability to prolong the life of the eater, and magical beasts were no exception to that. 10,000-year-old heavenly resources aren't something that can be eaten by anyone without consequence. Jianshan, if you want to change your cousin's body composition, you may want to invite an alchemist. An alchemist can craft medicines that can make the rich spiritual might of the heavenly resource docile, so that your cousin may be able to eat it. Jeditai suddenly spoke. Have the best alchemist come to me at once. Jianshan commanded without delay. Chapter 640. Dealing with the sect of Dragon and Tiger, about 10,000 meters high in the sky above the Qinhuang Kingdom. The faint image of a person could be seen surrounded by a sea of clouds. With those clouds in the way, neither of the 4 imperial protectors had seen or sensed his existence. The astral figure was currently staring down at the space gate in the center of the Qinhuang Kingdom's palace. The figure's fists were clenched tightly, and his teeth were gritted angrily as he spat. Blasted scoundrel. He escaped through the space gate. How troublesome. I didn't even have time to place a tracer on him. Where has he gone? I'll have to waste even more time and energy now. Blast. The figure thought to himself in anger. But then a thought struck him. Jianshan is an imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. This means that if I pay attention to what they say in the kingdom, I'll be able to figure out where he has gone to. With the plan set, the figure then faded away from sight. All of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had been transformed into the territory of the Flame Mercenaries. But with the previously hidden tungsten alloy now known throughout the area, countless of smaller kingdoms had been enticed. However, not a single one of them had been spurred into action besides the sect of Dragon and Tiger. The pressure that came from the threat of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was alleviated with the return of Jian Shen. Although Jian Shen didn't fear the sect, he didn't wish to make a preemptive strike against them either. Instead, he wanted to wait 2 days for the sect to come. Jian Shen wanted the sect to come with large forces and war banners ready for battle. He then wanted them to return back to where they came, ashen-faced with dejection and defeat. On the morning of the second day, Jian Shen could be seen seated on top of the throne in the grand halls. Down beneath him was an older man bent down at the waist. He Yin pays his respects to the captain. Smiling at the elder, Jian Shen said, "Master He Yin, they say that you are the most accomplished alchemist within this kingdom. What kind of alchemy are you capable of?" "Captain, as an alchemist, I've several accomplishments under my belt. As long as I possess the ingredients, I am capable of concocting many different high-leveled pills." He Yin respectfully answered. He knew that the young person in front of him was the leader of the Flame Mercenaries, the person who the 7 factions of the defunct Heavenly Eagle Kingdom swore allegiance to. "I've a single 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Master He Yin, would you be able to process it into a pill?" Jian Shen calmly asked, as if negotiating an everyday deal with He Yin. Like any other person, He Yin was startled to hear of a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, but he was quick to recover. "Captain, I hate to be one to disappoint, but a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is beyond even my alchemical skills. I do not possess the ability to process such a treasure." "Jian Shen, you don't have to make an alchemical pill from the 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Your cousin's body can't handle the concentrated spiritual qi inside the heavenly resource. All the alchemist has to do is make that qi docile, so that your cousin will be able to take it," Jeditai explained to Jian Shen. Nodding, Jian Shen turned to look at He Yin. "Master He Yin, would you be capable of this?" Letting out a sigh in relief, He Yin cupped his hands. "Captain, as long as I have the compatible ingredients, this is something that I can do." "So be it then. I'll be relying on you, Master He Yin. Stay within the royal palace in the meanwhile, and I will deliver whatever ingredients you need with haste," Jian Shen decreed. "Yes, Captain." In the blink of an eye, the 2 final days had gone by. Today would be the day the deadline the sect of Dragon and Tiger gave to relinquish the vein of tungsten alloy to them. Several dozen Heaven Saint Masters floated anxiously waiting for the sect to arrive. Around the perimeter of the valley, even more Earth Saint Masters stood by. This time, they were up against the experts of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, so Jian Shen and the other powerful individuals had already gathered here. There were only 100 Earth Saint Masters to reduce the casualty count, because of the fact that they would be more of a liability than helpful. Seated not too far away at an empty clearing in the valley was Jian Shen, Ming Dong, Dugafeng Taita, Huang Wan, Yu Jeditai newbies, Wang Yufeng and Little Fatty, chatting and eating at the table. Not a single one of them looked as if they cared about the sect of Dragon and Tiger. This was the very first time he had stepped onto the continent. Little Fatty was extremely curious about everything. Without rest, he asked for guidance on many different facets and questions, and sometimes the extremely naive words of his caused everyone else to laugh out loud. Unwilling to disappoint, Wang Yufeng relentlessly explained every single little experience he had collected while exploring the continent to everyone there. Soon enough, everyone had become friendly with one another. Jian Shen himself would interject a few times. Only newbies and Jeditai kept to themselves with their eyes closed, and not a word spoken. An hour later, both newbies and Jeditai opened their eyes to look off into a distant direction. Not too long later, even Jian Shen realized the change. Putting a stop to the conversation, he looked off in the same direction with a pointed stare. "They've come. Newbies Jeditai, hide your auras and don't let them see you." "The great newbies." Newbies muttered in dissatisfaction. Soon enough, A dozen Heaven Saint Masters came flying over before coming to a stop above the valley, an equal distance away from the Heaven Saint Masters of the Flame Mercenaries. They were the men of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Jianchen stared down these new arrivals with a glare that could freeze water. Many of them were familiar faces. 3 of them were the ones he had once fought in front of their sect gates. Flame Mercenaries, your 7 days are up. I presume you've made your decision. The Sect Master Chris smiled. Sect Master Chris, I wonder what it is that you want us to consider. Why don't you come out and say it? Jianchen replied to him, while biting into an apple. Chris' eyes hovered over to Jianchen before he clasped his hands together in greeting. Ah, so it's the captain of the Flame Mercenaries, an imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. I, the incumbent sect master of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, greet you. Chris paused briefly before saying, Imperial Protector, we of the sect of Dragon and Tiger are here for the tungsten alloy deposit. As agreed upon before, we want 2/3 of the deposit, and the remaining third will be left to you. Sitting upright on the stool he sat on, Jianchen stared daggers at Chris. How audacious your sect is to dare demand 2/3 of the resources. Do you think yourself capable of making such a demand? Instead of being angry, Chris only laughed. Imperial Protector, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was originally ours to manage and govern. Therefore, the tungsten alloy is within our territory, and is our right as well. According to logic, the entirety of the vein should be ours. But out of respect for the Qinhuang Kingdom, we shall only take 2/3 of it, and leave the rest to you. That is a reasonable and fair amount. What an overt excuse. Men of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, listen to me now. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom and its territories have already been subjugated by my Flame Mercenaries. The tungsten alloy is therefore under our possession. I'll give you all a brief moment to leave. If you don't, then don't blame me for being rough with you. Jianchen coldly responded, as if unwilling to quibble with them any longer. How brazen, Jianchen! This old man would like to see just how rough you'll be then. An elderly voice suddenly made itself known as it echoed through the sky. Right above the men from the sect of Dragon and Tiger, a single elderly man appeared out of nowhere. He was the saint ruler of the sect. Leveling a cold glare at the elder, Jianchen gave an equally cold smile. Saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, you finally made your appearance, and here I thought you'd hide for a little longer. Expressionless, the saint ruler looked at Jianchen. You aren't half bad at cultivation, but you are only still a Heaven Saint Master. Without the Qinhuang Kingdom behind you, you are merely a gnat in my eyes. I only pardoned your life last time out of respect to the Qinhuang Kingdom. That's why you can still stand here today. But if you're still so bold to spout off such blasphemous words toward my sect, then I cannot spare your life any longer. Are you willing to bet whether or not I'll beat your body into 1,000 pieces? Does your sect not fear the Qinhuang Kingdom? Jianchen inquisitively asked. Laughing, the saint ruler answered. The Qinhuang Kingdom barely has any time to look after itself. How could it spend extra time trying to reach here? Jianchen, if you were hoping to look to the Qinhuang Kingdom for support, then you should give up now, and obediently hand over the tungsten alloy. I won't make things troublesome for you, but if you don't comply, then you'll know the consequences. Unless he was forced to. The saint ruler didn't want to kill Jianchen in front of everyone. It was true that Jianchen, as a Heaven Saint Master, was as weak as an ant to him, but he was still an imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. Even a saint ruler would hesitate to kill one of them so quickly. Chapter 641. Fighting with the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. 1. Laughing, the saint ruler answered. The Qinhuang Kingdom barely has any time to look after itself. How could it spend extra time trying to reach here? Jianchen, if you were hoping to look to the Qinhuang Kingdom for support, then you should give up now and obediently hand over the tungsten alloy. I won't make things troublesome for you. But if you don't comply, then you'll know the consequences. Unless he was forced to. The saint ruler didn't want to kill Jianchen in front of everyone. It was true that Jianchen, as a Heaven Saint Master, was as weak as an ant to him, but he was still an imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. Even a saint ruler would hesitate to kill one of them so quickly. A troubled feeling tugged at Jianshen's mind. It was a guess earlier that a worrisome matter had suddenly appeared for the Qinhuang kingdom. With the saint ruler confirming this guess of his, Jianshen was still left unsure just what type of difficulties the Qinhuang kingdom was facing. I'll have to go see what's happening with the Qinhuang kingdom when I've the time, Jianshen thought to himself. The Qinhuang kingdom had helped him so much already, so he wouldn't feel right doing nothing when there was trouble to be had. Now wasn't the time to be thinking about such a problem. Resuming the topic at hand, Jianshen glowered dangerously at the saint ruler with an angry light in his eyes. Saint ruler, you don't have the right to speak to me like this anymore. At the last word, a layer of wind surrounded Jianshen's body and brought him into the air to stand equal to him. There was such a strong intent to battle that it filled the entire area, seemingly freezing it. Yet, the saint ruler continued to look at him with the same look of contempt as before. Jianshen was nothing more than a mere heaven saint master in his eyes. A person like that was as weak as an ant that could be swatted with the wave of his hand. Jianshen, do you truly wish this old man to take action? The saint ruler questioned with a voice like ice. His patience was reaching its breaking point. Thus, the space between Jianshen and the saint ruler became a battlefield. Observing the matters from afar, the dozen heaven saint masters, Ming Dong, and the others all looked grim. They were worried about Jianshen, since they all knew that a heaven saint master wasn't comparable to a saint ruler. Why hasn't the imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom come yet? Are they really as busy as that saint ruler said, unable to help? If they don't come, then brother is in danger. Bai Lian anxiously spoke. Everyone thought that Jianshen had already notified the Qinhuang kingdom, requesting them to send their imperial protectors, since he had been extremely calm before. However, seeing Jianshen in battle against a saint ruler, without a single imperial protector appearing, was something that made them all extremely worried and anxious. How impulsive Jianshen is. The imperial protectors aren't even here, and he's already angered the saint ruler. We don't have anyone that could fight one of those here. Dugafeng muttered with furrowed eyebrows. Newbies couldn't help but laugh out loud when he heard both Bai Lian and Dugafeng. Sorry to disappoint, but the imperial protectors you were expecting won't be coming. What? They won't be coming? Then how'll we be holding off the saint ruler then? Ming Dong started. Casting his eyes to the airborne Jianshen, Newbies replied. Hasn't someone already started? That saint ruler will take care of the enemy. What are you on about? Jianshen is only a heaven saint master. How could he fight a saint ruler? Jianshen questioned. I'll report to my ancestor. He should have the strength to deal with this saint ruler. Huang Wuan words and tone were panicked. Boom! Just as everyone was furiously discussing with one another on how to deal with this situation, the sound of a heavy explosion caused everyone to look back. The entire area shook from the shockwave of the blast, obscuring almost everything but Jianshen and the saint ruler in battle. Saint ruler, I still very clearly remember the hand you bestowed on me. Allow me to return the favor to you today. Jianshen boomed. Chaotic force covered his entire body, so that its power defended him from the attacks of the saint ruler. The saint ruler was slightly taken aback. He was having a hard time believing what he was seeing. But how is this possible? Have you already made the breakthrough to become a saint ruler? In the earlier exchange, the saint ruler had finally been made aware of Jianshen's power. It was something that was greater than what a heaven saint master was capable of. This aggressive behavior of your sect. Allow me to force you all to return with shame and disgrace. Jianshen barked out loud. Using the illusionary flash, his body flew toward the saint ruler like lightning. One of his fists pulsated with chaotic force as it slammed toward the chest of his foe. The space trailing the path his fist traveled started to warp. Chapter 642. Fighting with the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. 2. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger looked especially serious when he observed the power in Jianshen's fist. He could tell that the energy that surrounded his fist was by no means weaker than what a saint ruler was capable of. Impossible. In the short period of time since our last meeting, Jian Shen has already become a saint ruler? Even if his talent is unprecedented in all of history, he shouldn't be able to become a saint ruler at such a young age. What has he done to gain this power? The saint ruler was stuck in a tumultuous situation and was unable to remain calm. With Jian Shen becoming a saint ruler in a single leap, his heart was about to give out from the shock. No, he can't be a saint ruler. He's still using the power of the world to fly. Noticing the fault in his earlier thoughts, the saint ruler realized that Jian Shen wasn't a saint ruler. However, there was no more time to think about this matter, since Jian Shen's fearsome punch was about to make contact with his chest. He knew that the strength in Jian Shen's fist wasn't weak by any means. Therefore, the saint ruler immediately brought forth his saint force from his body to surround his own right hand. With such a tremendous amount of saint force gathered, the light that was reflected into his surroundings looked as if it was warping space. From this, it could be seen just how much power was contained in the saint ruler's fist. His strength was noticeably a few notches higher than Jeditai's strength. Bang! The fists smashed against one another with a thunderous explosion. The space around the impact zone trembled as a tremendous shockwave rippled out with the force of an erupting volcano, like a devastating storm ravaging the area. The environment around Jian Shen and the saint ruler was immediately torn apart without mercy. Right at the epicenter, several cracks could be seen in the space there, slowly starting to heal over itself. The two fighters were obscured by the fallout of their strikes, so none of the spectators could see just what was happening inside. All they could feel was the earth beneath them violently tremble, threatening to split apart as pieces of stone tumbled down from the valley cliffs. When they fell to the ground, a loud echo rang throughout the valley. To the group, it was unknown just when Jeditai had gotten up from his seat, but his elderly figure could be seen towering in front of everyone else, with both of his hands out in front of him. Just barely, a transparent barrier could be seen protecting Ming Dong and the rest of the group from the fallout. Long before the battle, Jian Shen commanded Jeditai to protect the group's safety at all costs. Thus, Jeditai had to give up his dignity as a saint ruler to personally protect the mere Earth Saint Masters, and even the ones who weren't that, with his own hands. No longer was there any ground to stand on under the group's feet. With the fallout utterly destroying the place, only the table they had placed there was left unharmed due to the barrier. If not for this barrier, the group would have fallen down. Whether it was the Heaven Saint Masters of the Flame Mercenaries, or the sect of Dragon and Tiger, both sides found themselves knocked for a loop, and some of them temporarily lost the ability to take flight. Frightened, both sides retreated even farther away to avoid a repeat. This energy was completely different than when two heaven-tier battle skill collided. Trying to withstand it would be foolhardy for even them. Forming another barrier between his hands, Jeditai enveloped the group and lifted them to a nearby mountain peak several kilometers away. Dugu Feng and Ming Dong's eyes were glued to the sight of the barrier, and both thunderstruck in the face. This is a barrier. You're a saint ruler. Ming Dong's eyes grew as wide as copper plates when he cried out in alarm. Even Dugu Feng had let out an uncharacteristically loud shout. The two of them were now staring at Jeditai with a new sense of fear and respect. Jeditai's eyes swept to look at Ming Dong for a brief moment, but he did not answer him. Instead, he turned his head back to look at the battle far away. Having seen Ming Dong's expression, newbies let out a derisive snort in disdain from aside Jeditai. A saint ruler and nothing more. What is there to be amazed about? Ming Dong hadn't even heard the offhanded remark of newbies, since his entire being was focused on the existence that Jeditai was. This was an entity that could fight against the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. Senior, please go save Jian Shen. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger is a senior figure that has been a saint ruler for many years. Jian Shen isn't an opponent for him. Only you can fight that saint ruler. Ming Dong frantically urged. Jian Shen was a heaven saint master to Ming Dong, and was therefore a powerless individual in front of a saint ruler. With the few months that they were apart, Ming Dong didn't dare believe that Jian Shen would be capable of making a breakthrough to become a saint ruler. No matter how much he was concerned for him, Jianchen was already in the middle of a battle with the Saint Ruler. That previous shockwave, which left a void in the area and destroyed the landscape, had already left Ming Dong completely unaware of what was happening. So naturally he believed that Jianchen was in mortal danger. "Senior, please save my brother." Tearing up, Bai Lian's heart had long since leaped to her throat. It was a fact to her that her brother was strong, but a being as terrifying as a Saint Ruler was not a person that she thought Jianchen could fight against. "Senior." With the revelation of Jeditai's strength, everyone began to beg and implore him, clutching at the straws to life. The concern they felt for Jianchen had already reached a breaking point. They didn't believe Jianchen had the strength to fight a Saint Ruler. The initial burst of energy had traumatized them senseless. They feared that the might of the Saint Ruler had already left Jianchen in perilous straits. Originally, Jeditai didn't wish to bother with them, but then remembering that these anxious people were all close friends with Jianchen, he relented. "Worry not. The Saint Ruler might be one that has reached the fourth heavenly layer, but Jianchen will be more than enough to take care of him." His words stunned the entire group of people there. Jianchen was capable of fighting a Saint Ruler at the fourth heavenly layer? That was something everyone didn't expect to hear. Boom! There was almost no time given for them to think, when yet another explosion rocked the battlefield. Ripples of energy flew across the sky, reshaping the earth around them. Such power was capable of terraforming the earth. Mountain peaks within a few kilometers distance crumbled apart. All that could be seen was the Saint Ruler, making a retreat with a grim expression on his face. His right arm gave a slight tremble as it drooped down powerlessly. The second time he had collided with Jianchen, Jianchen had enforced his fist with chaotic force to boost its destructive force. If not for the Saint Ruler's strength at the fourth heavenly layer, it would have been very likely that his right arm would have shattered apart. "O great Saint Ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger, where has your superior attitude gone now? Did you not say you'd make me die a violent death? Then why have you not injured me yet? Is it because you can't deal with a junior like me?" Jianchen mocked the Saint Ruler. Using the illusionary flash, he disappeared and reappeared right in front of the Saint Ruler, with a fist ready to strike him down with the appropriate force. Growing ashen in the face, the Saint Ruler felt an unbearable amount of shame and humiliation wash over him. There was no way out of this embarrassing situation with how Jianchen spoke. Indignation flooded the Saint Ruler's eyes, and Saint Force gathered in his right arm shortly afterward, restoring his right arm back to its original state. A fiery red machete materialized in his right hand, before it came arcing toward Jianchen's head. As it traveled through the air, the machete left behind a fiery crack through the world space. In the short two exchanges he had with Jianchen, the Saint Ruler had somehow been forced by Jianchen to use the Saint weapon he hadn't used in a very long time. Unflinchingly, Jianchen slammed his fist against the Saint weapon. When fist met Saint weapon, the fist repelled the Saint weapon while sustaining a bone-deep cut. As soon as the cut appeared, blood came spraying out. Barely any time passed, however, before the blood clotted. Even the wound itself had seemingly regenerated in no time at all without a trace or scar to be seen. "I'm impossible." Even though he saw the wound himself, the Saint Ruler didn't dare believe his eyes. He had used his very own personal Saint weapon, but it did nothing but leave an inconsequential wound on Jianchen's fist. Not only that, it even healed as soon as it was inflicted. The Saint Ruler was left with nothing but the utmost shock. "Impossible. Simply impossible," the Saint Ruler repeated to himself. Unwilling to accept the scene in front of him, the Saint Ruler borrowed the powers of space to teleport to Jianchen's front to deliver a swift chop into him. This one stroke was further enhanced with the powers of space to allow it to travel even faster than before. Even Jianchen wouldn't be left with enough time to respond. After all, this was a move that could only be accomplished by understanding the profound mysteries of the world. The trajectory of the blade charged for Jianchen's waist and successfully drew some blood. The might behind this stroke was powerful, but it failed to bisect Jianchen in two as the Saint Ruler expected. But at the very least, it had left Jianchen with a serious wound. Furthermore, It allowed him to inject his qi into Jian Chen's innards to try and destroy him from the insides. But before he could try to do so, the chaotic force inside of Jian Chen's body instantly devoured the qi. "Jeditai newbies, fight with me," Jian Chen commanded. With the three of them united, the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger would be completely outclassed. Jeditai was someone that couldn't even injure Jian Chen, let alone the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. To begin with, Jian Chen wasn't even someone who could step in the same realm as they. The mysteries of the world were not something to be belittled. He had a decent understanding of the illusionary flash, but not anything that could contend with the saint ruler. From far away, Jeditai and newbies immediately flew forward to stand against the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger together. "You two are saint rulers." Even though he had reached the fourth heavenly layer himself, going against two other saint rulers was no easy task. To have a 2 versus 1 fight like this would put him at a disadvantage by forcing him on the defensive. A battle between the four would be extremely intense. The heavens would fall and the earth would shatter. The sun and moon themselves wouldn't be able to cast any light once these four began to battle. Even 1,000 of kilometers away, strong individual were able to feel the slight tremors of the battle. Naturally, the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger soon found himself backed against a wall. It took only a short moment for the four to inflict a serious wound and dash away the previously heroic look on the saint ruler's face. "Today we behead a saint. You'll rest here forever." Jian Chen laughed as he brought a chaotic force-filled fist into the back of the saint ruler, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The offensive might of this fist was far stronger than what the saint ruler could handle. "Ha ha ha, beheading a saint, very well. Today we'll behead a saint ruler." Newbies laughed out loud before clawing at the saint ruler's chest. He stripped away part of the man's chest, causing the man to scream out loud in pain. Chapter 643. Escaping after being beaten, ha ha ha, beheading a saint. "Very well. Today, we'll behead a saint ruler." Newbies laughed out loud before clawing at the saint ruler's chest and stripping away part of his chest to cause the man to scream out loud in pain. "Beheading a saint? You've not the ability." The saint ruler spat malevolently, disappearing from the three's line of sight. The saint ruler then reappeared 100 meters away by using the powers of space. His figure now was a haphazard one. His hair was a mess, his face was pale from blood loss, and his previously white robes were torn and dyed red from his blood. No longer was he the same elegant figure from before the battle. Utilizing the illusionary flash, Jian Chen caught up to the saint ruler and began to attack him again, so as to avoid giving the saint ruler any time to breathe. Newbies and Jeditai soon afterwards caught up to surround the saint ruler. Vehemently, the saint ruler glowered at Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, I'll remember this day." He spat between gritted teeth. "There'll be a day in the future that I'll return this twofold onto you." Without further ado, the saint ruler disappeared into thin air to escape from the area, disappearing from sight and leaving behind the heaven saint masters. Having seen the saint ruler run away, Jian Chen let out a sigh of regret. "He's escaped, what a shame. Today was a great chance to kill him." Staring off into the direction in which the saint ruler reigned, Newbies spoke. "How could a saint ruler be that easy to be killed? Unless in front of an indomitable might, a saint ruler can escape without a worry. His strength was of the fourth heavenly layer, a tier higher than both Jeditai and I. If his comprehension of the mysteries of the world is far better, there would be no way for us to chase up to him." Jian Chen looked to Newbies. As a golden-striped silver snake, Newbies' fighting strength was unbelievable. Those of the same rank of it wouldn't be able to fight Newbies, and even those of a rank higher than Newbies would find themselves at a stalemate. Furthermore, as a golden-striped silver snake, Newbies had access to a venom that was known as one of the 3 strongest on the continent. Throughout the entire battle, Newbies hadn't bothered to use his venom and still managed to injure the saint ruler. In fact, Newbies had only shown a mediocre amount of his strength, so that he would be seen as equal to Jeditai in strength. But it was because of this deception that Jian Chen felt rather unhappy, but he didn't say anything about it. A saint ruler is hard to kill. If they wish to run, then it'll be hard to give chase to one that can leap 1,000 kilometers if they wished. Without a tracing seal of some sort, they'd be able to escape from the normal range of detection. But even then, this way of running requires a hefty price. Jeditai spoke in agreement with newbies. Narrowing his eyes, Jianshan asked, "Then how would we kill him?" For a while the two of them were quiet. It was Jeditai that spoke up first, however. To kill a fourth heavenly layer saint ruler requires one of the two conditions. The first is to have a saint tier battle skill. The second is to be a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler at the very least. With a saint ruler of that might, a fourth heavenly layer saint ruler has no means of escape. Then killing a saint ruler isn't as easy as I thought. Jianshan muttered under his breath. According to this knowledge, killing a saint ruler wouldn't be as easy as he thought. From far away, the 10 Heaven Saint Masters saw that their saint ruler had ran away in defeat. Turning pale in fright, each one of them immediately made a hasty retreat away from the area as well. Noticing their movements, a sharp glint entered Jianshan's eye. "Since you're here, leaving now won't be as easy as you think." Swinging his palm, a tremendous amount of energy flew towards the Heaven Saint Master and locked the space around them. Then, the energy slammed into several of them without further ado. Boom! When the energy slammed into them, several of the Heaven Saint Masters were killed instantaneously and fell back down to the ground as a result. For the 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master Sect Master Chris, the 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master Vice Sect Master, and another elder, they were able to escape death with serious wounds. But flight was still capable for them. "We're going." Chris let out a raspy cry as he wielded the wind element in the world to encircle his body and hasten his speed out of the area with the other two. Jianshan didn't bother to give chase or kill them all. With the power he had now, he felt disinclined to try to attack them again. "Let's head back now," Jianshan spoke. With the two saint rulers, Jianshan returned to where Mingdong and the rest were on the mountain. "Jianshan, don't tell me you've made a breakthrough into the saint ruler realm in the few months you were away? Brother, you're hurt, are you okay?" The simultaneous voices of Mingdong and 7 other voices called out at once in great concern and relief. As it were, Jianshan's strength caused a great deal of conflicting emotions in them. Not too far away, the several Heaven Saint Masters of the Flame Mercenaries stared at the young Jianshan with a strange expression. He was far younger than they were, but the battle between him and the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger had left them in amazement. In the short times they didn't see each other, Jianshan had managed to step onto the realms of the saint rulers. This was the realm that many of them saw as the ultimate finish line, the realm that they all coveted. But Jianshan had somehow managed to arrive there with barely any trouble at all. For a while, each one of them could barely hide their jealous admiration. Some of them were even a little envious, but still respected him. The distance between a Heaven Saint Master and a saint ruler was separated by the river, as wide as the cosmic river. As he was now, Jianshan was a figure that Heaven Saint Masters should respect. But what they didn't know was that Jianshan was still a Heaven Saint Master, and not an actual saint ruler. After this one battle, the strengths of Jianshan, Jeditai, and newbies were shown to the entirety of the Flame Mercenaries. With 3 saint rulers presiding over them, the status of the Flame Mercenaries would flourish even more. Even the problem that arose with the leak of the tungsten alloy deposit would be completely suppressed by this. They personally saw Jianshan, Jeditai, and newbies beat a saint ruler into retreating. Then, they saw Jianshan personally kill nearly 10 Heaven Saint Masters with a single strike. From what they witnessed today, they all knew that the Flame Mercenaries had what it took to be able to overlook the entire continent. With Jianshan's revealed skill, they couldn't even possibly imagine just what height his strength would reach in just a small amount of time. Having successfully beaten back the sect of Dragon and Tiger, the Flame Mercenaries returned to the palace. Within the palace, each of the highest-ranking members of the Flame Mercenaries were gathered for a conference. Since the tungsten alloy is revealed, we'll have no need to hide it anymore. Start mining it without the secrecy, so we can mine them all out as swiftly as we can. We can avoid another unforeseen accident this way. Jianchen spoke seriously. Although the flame mercenaries now had the strength to equal even the Shi family, tungsten alloy was far too valuable to be left alone on the continent. With such a tremendous deposit, he was worried that another force as strong as the sect of Dragon and Tiger would show up. We've already starting the mining process, but progress is very slow due to the density and amount of ores. Even now, we've gone a slow way and only managed a small amount. We've even employed the finest artisans to construct the best tungsten armor, to be made for our flame mercenaries to use however. Yu reported. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Jianchen spoke. With how large the deposit is, it'd be best if we get more people to work on it. This is a matter that shouldn't be delayed. As Jianchen was conducting the meeting over the tungsten alloy, news of what had transpired between the sect of Dragon and Tiger and the flame mercenaries flowed across the continent like wildfire. The energy that had been blasted away from the area could be felt by Heaven Saint Masters within a certain proximity, and each one of them were shocked by the sensation. A battle between saint rulers was not often seen on the continent. That was due to the fact that most saint rulers were hermits that barely ventured out, let alone fought. News like this had caught the eye of the strongest in other areas. Many Heaven Saint Masters had even gathered around the battlefield in interest, and inquired the members of the flame mercenaries of what happened in great detail. With them making their inquiries, they've quickly learned that the leader of the flame mercenaries had reached the saint ruler realm, and had also two other saint rulers acting with him in the group. The outsiders had been astounded by that, and how strong the flame mercenaries were in general. Thousands of kilometers away within a deep cave, the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger sat within it with blood pooling around his body. With the help of a continuous supply of 6th-class radiant spirit pills, his wounds were already healed to a substantial degree. Jianchen, the flame mercenaries, I'll make you regret this day. Just you wait. Don't think that having 3 saint rulers makes you invincible. There'll be a day where this old man will repay this humiliation tenfold. Forget about the tungsten alloy. The elder spoke ominously. Chapter 644. Gathering helpers. It took 7 days for the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger to fully recuperate and heal from all the wounds he had sustained. Now that he could leave the cave, the saint ruler immediately blurred away into the world. Harmonizing with space itself, he traveled countless of kilometers within an extremely fast pace. Half a day later, the saint ruler reappeared at the depths of a particular mountain range after traveling for so long. The depths to this mountain range was a forbidden area for humans to step in, but there was a manor that not many people knew about in here. Even during the day, not a single human could be seen, or any sound at all for that matter, but the ground was kept nice and clean somehow. Descending down to the ground, the saint ruler floated in front of the gates to the manor. The sect of Dragon and Tiger has come to pay a visit to the Four Harmonies manor. His voice was soft, but the magic in the air had allowed his words to be spoken loud enough for the entire manor to hear it. The Four Harmonies manor wasn't something that many people on the continent knew. It was a place that a single hermit sect had once sealed off, so that they could cultivate in peace without having need to go out. For thousands of years, they had never once interfered with the outside world. It was only when they sought out disciples that they would venture out to find someone suitable with their teachings and help prolong their sect's lifetime. But other than that, the existence of this manor was something that only a few select clans and sects knew about. The saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was one of these few. A friend has come. What a pleasant surprise. Situ Qing, it's been a few hundred years since your last visit. Come on in. Let us sit down and have a nice talk. A calm but elderly voice called out from within the manor. Letting out a laugh, the saint ruler flew inside before coming to a stop at the very center of the halls. Right in front of the hall gates, a middle-aged man wearing black robes could be seen already waiting for him. Senior, our teacher is waiting inside for you. Please go in. The middle-aged man spoke to the saint ruler reverently. This middle-aged man was only a heaven saint master in strength, and was thus not someone the saint ruler could bother to care for. Not even giving him a glance, he strode on in. The halls were of rather ordinary decoration. The wooden walls looked as if they had already managed to weather through countless years of wear and tear, to look more like the walls to a peasant farmer's home. At the very center of the room was an old-fashioned circular table, with a sackcloth-wearing elder there sipping a cup of tea. The fragrant aroma from the tea spread throughout the room, and had a relaxing effect to it. As it appeared, this tea was a treasured item in this place. Walking straight into the room, the saint ruler sat down right in front of the other elder unceremoniously, and stared at the tea-drinking elder. Even after so many years since our last meeting, you're still living a life of pleasure, it seems. I've lived my entire life like so, uncontaminated by the outside world, and unpolluted by its dust. To live the life I've wanted, I've separated from the disputes of human society, to attain the enlightenment of my heart. The elder laughed. Staring at the elder, the saint ruler let out one final sigh. I can't see through you anymore. Your strength has beaten mine. Break away from your mind and body, and become detached from yourself. Free yourself from the fetters and chains of the world. Sita-ching, it's been 100 years now, and your strength is still where it was from then. Perhaps you should make your sex seclude itself completely from the outside world. Don't bother with the outside world. Don't worry for who lives or who dies. Don't care for who wins or who loses. None of that matters. In your current state, what use is there to be in the secular world? The sackcloth man spoke slowly. The saint ruler did not answer him for a while. We can talk about that later. Wuxia, I actually came here for a request to ask of you. Draining the rest of his tea in a single gulp, the elder placed the now empty cup back onto the table. I know. I can see that you've been injured recently. You must have come across trouble in the outside world. The saint ruler nodded his head with a dangerous light entering his eyes from the memories. Wuxia, I hope that you'll be able to lend me an arm. My enemy is far too terrifying to let live. If given too much time, then I will surely die in the future. Alas, the elder sighed. Sita-ching, you have too many complaints in your heart. To continue on like this would not be beneficial to you. Resolve the issue as best as you can. There is no point in a situation where only one can live. Shaking his head, the saint ruler replied, Impossible. My enemy is merciless, and has a heart that only knows revenge. Our grievances are far too deep now to simply waive. Between him and I, only one can live. And to try and resolve an issue with someone of the younger generation is another problem. He continued with gritted teeth. It is unsure if he'd even accept or not. But to even try to do so would be a great slap to my face. Sita-ching, you know me. No matter how deep our friendship goes, I will not help you kill another. The elder sighed. I know that, Wuxia. I won't ask for you to help me kill. The enemy has 3 saint rulers in total, with them being at the 3rd heavenly layer, at the very strongest. I wish for you to help me stop 2 of them. Sita-ching pleaded. The elder hesitated. Debating about it for a while, he finally replied, Very well, Sita-ching. For the sake of our friendship, I'll have helped you this very once. But this will be a private matter between us two, and not with the 4 harmonies manner. I will not help you kill anyone. After discussing the matter with the elder, Sita-ching, and he left the 4 harmonies manor together. Traveling in a certain direction for an hour, the 2 of them finally arrived at a hidden cave. It was brightly lit within the cave thanks to the torches, with how they danced and flickered to illuminate the interior of the cave. A single blue-robed elder could be seen seated on top of a giant boulder in the center. Almost as if stuck within a deep meditative stance, the elder did not look as if he noticed the 2 newcomers. Not a footstep could be heard from Sita-ching as he walked into the cave. Looking at the elder, he spoke. Hi, it's been 30 years. How's your recovery going now? I've been fully healed since 20 years ago. Sita-ching, say it. Why have you come for me? The elder spoke calmly from his seat. Hi, I've come here today with a request for you to help me with today. Sita-ching spoke. You saved my life 30 years ago. Whatever it is that you need my help with, I owe you that at the very least. What do you wish for me to help you with this time? The elder opened his eyes to look at Sita-ching. Situching hesitated for a moment. To have this blue-robed elder owe him a favor was not a very easy thing to do. He was in fact wondering if using this favor to deal with Jianchen was worth it or not. Jianchen's talent is far too terrifying. He must be dealt with at once, so that he won't be given time to grow in the future. Resolved, Situching gritted his teeth and spoke. I'll have to use this favor to have you help me deal with a person. What is their strength and when do we strike? The elder spoke. A junior that you should be able to kill with ease. The sooner we strike, the better. In fact, it'd be best if we go now. Situching spoke. If that's how it is, then that's how it will be. The elder opened his eyes completely to rise up into the air without a sound. After this matter is over, why not come to my sect of dragon and tiger? Situching asked expectantly, but the elder shook his head expressionlessly. My enemy is far too strong. Even I am helpless to fight them. Are you not afraid that your sect of dragon and tiger would be destroyed as a result of having me join? Situching blanched without another word. Despite being very willing to invite an expert such as him to join his sect, the enemies of Baihai frightened even him. Jianchen, newbies and Jeditai spent the following days overseeing the flame mercenaries, while prepared to defend themselves from a counterattack from the sect of dragon and tiger. Their enemy was without a doubt a powerful foe, and added to the pressure of mining the tungsten alloy. With 3 saint rulers protecting them, the entire flame mercenaries had been motivated to unprecedented levels. Their war banners flew in the air above where the tungsten alloy was, while the very best artisans they could find and employ worked the ore to the best of their abilities every day. Each end of the day, the ore they managed to harvest had been enough to make anyone that saw it envious. Chapter 645. Manufacturing radiant spirit pills in the blink of an eye. 3 days passed by since the saint ruler was defeated. Life in the kingdom grew peaceful. But with the fact that 3 saint rulers were ruling over the flame mercenaries, caused a wave of smaller mercenary groups and members to come ask to join the flame mercenaries, in hopes of gaining the status of being one of them. Jianchen and the entire group went through a series of secret discussion, before finally deciding that they would take in the best members into the group to supplement their strength. The flame mercenaries of today was not the same as the ones from before. The additions to the flame mercenaries had naturally gave no small amount of joy to the ones already in there. To them, the more that joined the flame mercenaries, the more honor that would be brought to them, and the more resplendent they would be to the rest of the continent. Those that were not able to join the flame mercenaries had been disheartened, but they didn't give up on the hope just yet. If anything, they felt all the more motivated to go back and focus on their cultivation, even more so that they could meet the standards in the future. Day after day, the flame mercenaries swelled up in size. As if traveling to see a famous landmarks, a multitude of Earth Saint Masters came forward to join the flame mercenaries. There were even 3 Heaven Saint Masters that came for that same reason. In a short burst of time, the flame mercenaries increased in numbers and power once more. The entire reason behind this exponential growth was due to the fact that there were 3 saint rulers acting as the ones in charge for the flame mercenaries. Individuals like these were a symbol of the utmost might that were practically unrivaled in strength. While not completely invincible, they may as well be in the eyes of the average mercenary. By noon, Jianchen was seated within a luxurious room that once used to be the bedroom of the old king of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Out of the entire palace, this was the most luxurious room. Within the room, Jianchen was currently discussing some of his experiences on cultivation with Bai Lian. For the sake of guiding her onto the path of cultivation, he wanted to make sure that there would be barely any deviations or side paths as possible. A report for the captain. Alchemist Hiyun asks for an audience. At that moment, a guard appeared right outside the room to speak respectfully to Jianchen. Allow him entry. Jianchen spoke at once. Yes, captain. The guard immediately retreated out of the room to bring the alchemist in. A thin and sallow Hiyun came walking into the room. Compared to his initial appearance, Hiyun was practically an entirely different person. In order to accomplish the task set for him by Jian Chun, He-yin worked without rest. So by the time he had managed to refine the 10,000-year-old into a successful product, he was on the brink of fainting. Report for the captain. Despite what the heavens might have had in store for me, I've successfully procured 2 pills from the essence of the geofruit. He-yin bowed down to Jian-chen while speaking as respectfully as he could. In his hands was a single wooden box that was presented for Jian-chen to take. Opening up the wooden box, Jian-chen could see 2 small bottles resting inside. Gingerly taking one of the bottles and uncorking it, a fragrant aroma immediately wafted into the room and dulled the senses of everyone in it. Basked in the powerful but docile power of the pill, Jian-chen nodded his head in satisfaction. Master He-yin, you've worked hard these past 2 days. For your assistance, I will be sure to treat you well. What might it be that you desire? I, Jian-chen, will do my best to reward you. He-yin hesitated to speak for a moment before bowing. Captain, I've no other request but that my family would be able to live here in peace. Laughing, Jian-chen replied, how could such a small request be enough to reward you for your efforts? Master He-yin, I've already prepared a set of rules for the flame mercenaries. As mercenaries that often have to fight and risk their lives on a daily basis, injuries are unavoidable. I wish to establish an alchemy hall, where pills can be manufactured to specifically treat the flame mercenaries. Master He-yin, would you be interested in the spot as the hall master? From today onwards, the entire alchemy hall will be yours to govern. Upon listening to Jian-chen, He-yin had a joyous look to his face. If the captain sees this one that highly, then I, He-yin, will work to my dying breath to serve the flame mercenaries. He-yin spoke. He knew that the flame mercenaries were strong, and if he were to become an alchemical hallmaster, it would bring all the more glory to his own family. He had not been expecting this outcome, but it had been to his liking. Master He-yin, on your way back, please assemble all of the alchemists you know. From today onwards, the alchemy hall will be yours to govern. As long as the flame mercenaries have enough pills to recover with, then the business of the hall will be up to you. Order as you will. Jian-chen spoke. As the captain decrees. He-yin spoke respectfully. As Jian-chen prepared to dismiss the alchemist, a sudden thought struck his mind. Master He-yin, what might you know about the alchemical procedure of procuring radiant spirit pills? Captain, He-yin hesitated. While radiant spirit pills aren't hard to make, it requires the assistance of a radiant saint master to create even a small amount. Does the captain wish to create some? Correct. That was the meaning I had in mind. Master He-yin, what exactly is required to make one of these? Jian-chen asked. When it came to the miraculous effects of these pills, Jian-chen was all too experienced with them. He had once wanted to try and make them himself, but because no alchemist or procedure was found, he hadn't been able to fulfill the hope he had till now. Captain, a radiant spirit pill isn't hard to make. It's rather simple, and only needs a few simple ingredients to make. But a radiant saint master must infuse their radiant saint force into it, and then sealed, so that it doesn't escape. But to infuse radiant saint force into a pill is the same as having a person stick their finger into stone. It isn't easy to do, and not many radiant saint masters can do so. Thus, radiant spirit pills aren't easy to make in large quantities. Master He-yin, when you return, procure several radiant spirit pills for me. I will go find a person that'll be able to do this task. Jian-chen spoke. Chapter 646, Class 3 Spirit Pills. Yes, Captain. I'll make haste to procure a radiant spirit pill shell upon my return. He-yin replied before leaving the chamber. After He-yin left, Jian-chen and Bai Lian were the only 2 who remained in the brilliant room. Jian-chen's eyes rested upon the wooden box on the table with unhidden glee apparent on his face. With these pills, Bai Lian would undergo a transformation that would give her a talent for cultivation. With this pill, she would face no bad obstacles in her path. Lianer, hurry up and eat it. From now on, you won't ever need to worry about your strength being behind. Jian-chen handed the bottle to her. The aroma coming from the bottle had been enough to send Bai Lian into a tizzy. This pill was made from a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. She hadn't ever seen of a 1,000-year-old heavenly resource before, let alone a 10,000-year-old one. She was once upon a time the golden daughter of the Yin family. A 1,000-year-old heavenly resource would have been an undeniably precious treasure for her family back then. But be given something 1,000 times more precious than that, she felt conflicted. At the same time, she was touched that such an item was given to her. Such consideration like this filled her entire body with warmth. Brother, thank you. Aside from my mother, you are the only one that treats me so well in this world. Bai Lian blinked away her tears. She could barely hold back the droplets flowing from her eyes. Jianchen laughed and wiped away some of her tears with his hand. Silly girl, you're my little cousin. By all rights, I should be treating you well. Now let's have you take this pill first and talk later. Who knows how much time it'll take for you to completely absorb it all. Jianchen spoke before putting the pill into her mouth. As soon as the pill passed through her throat and into her stomach, a warm but docile energy began to spill forth from the pill and flow throughout her body. Subconsciously closing her eyes, Bai Lian tried her best to use the meditation techniques Jianchen had taught to her to help guide the energy through her body. At the same time, Jianchen closed his eyes as well to use his will to assist Bai Lian in her attempt to convert the energy into her own. The geofruit was a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. The spiritual qi in it was far more potent than anyone could possibly imagine. To have the spiritual qi split into 2 pills only showed just how much energy there was in total. It would take several dozen days for a normal person to absorb the energy. But with the help of Jianchen, Bai Lian would only need half a day to absorb the energy within the pill. With the completion of the absorption, Bai Lian's body would undergo a complete transformation from an average body to a body completely suited for cultivation. Her aptitude for cultivation would skyrocket to a level comparable to Dugufeng, or Huangyuan at the very least. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource could alter the human body. It was an item that could make a saint ruler drool at the mouth, and its miraculous effects made 1,000-year-old heavenly resource insignificant. Not only was her body altered, Bai Lian's strength also skyrocketed exponentially. In just this half-day alone, she went from someone who hadn't even condensed her saint weapon to a being that surpassed the limitations to breakthrough to become a saint master. All that was left was a single step more to become a great saint master. Indeed, a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was life-altering. Its effects on a person were miraculous, but to use them to only alter someone's body was a simple matter. Even the mighty Qinhuang kingdom would be loath to use it due to the difficulty of obtaining a heavenly resource. In short, it was an absolute waste to use it on a normal person, and not a single person would be willing to go through such a waste. Brother, I've become a saint master now. How unbelievable is this? In just half a day, my strength has gone from barely a saint to a saint master. Exuberant with just how much strength was coursing through her body, Bai Lian never thought that she would wield such power before. The power of a peak saint master was more than enough for Bai Lian. Even Jianchen himself felt happy to see the smile on Bai Lian's face. Lianer, hurry up and familiarize yourself with your new strength as fast as possible. Thanks to the 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, she would experience no problems with her growth. If anything, her foundation in cultivation was set in stone now. Afterward, Jianchen gave a few more personal notes of how he would often circulate his strength to familiarize himself before leaving her in peace. She would have to stay in the room herself for better results. Although she was a saint master now, she became one far too fast. Thus, her saint force almost felt foreign rather than being as easy to operate as her arm. Time was needed to familiarize herself. As soon as he walked out of the room, Jianchen could see that the day was already getting dark. Realizing that an entire day had passed by, Jianchen could sense that the night patrol were already making their rounds nearby. As the elites of the Flame Mercenaries, each one of these patrolmen were of exceptional strength. The alchemist He Yin came scurrying over at this precise moment, with a small box clutched to his chest. Fatigued, he said to Jianchen, "Captain, Your subordinate has managed to procure a batch of radiant spirit pill shells as you ordered. They are all within this box. He presented the box to Jianchen. Accepting the box offered to him, Jianchen could see that there were several small palm-sized bottles, all arranged nicely in it. Plenty of brown pills could be seen through the glass exterior of the bottles, but these pills looked rather unsimilar to the snow-white radiant spirit pills that Jianchen was used to. Master He Yun, you said that radiant saint force needed to be infused inside in order for these to be called radiant spirit pills, correct? Jianchen asked again. Correct. As long as radiant saint force is infused, then the shell will seal in the radiant saint force without a drop of it leaking. He Yun answered. Master He Yun, you've worked hard. Go and take a proper rest for now. Jianchen dismissed He Yun before taking the box of pill shells to his own personal chambers. Instructing the maids and guards to not have anyone bother him, Jianchen locked himself in his own room. As it were, the room had gone through a complete rehaul in decoration. While plenty of things remained from the past, just as many things had been added to the room, such as a nice and fluffy bed. Jianchen's bedroom was the bedroom that the king of the past Heavenly Eagle Kingdom once owned. The old decorations and furniture that the king had once enjoyed were all gone. With Jianchen being the new owner, there was no way Yu and Bai Lian let that room possess lingering memories of its past owners. On the bed was a completely white, fluffy, small tiger sleeping comfortably. In the past 2 days, it had managed to consume 20-something thousand-year-old heavenly resources, and was in the midst of absorbing their energy. Taking the small box to the middle of the bed, Jianchen took out one of the bottles and cracked it open to take out several empty pill shells. A series of slightly gray-brown pills tumbled out, but Jianchen levitated them, keeping them from falling onto the ground with his mind power. These pills were thumb-sized. There was around 30 pills total. Jianchen found it extremely difficult to calm himself as he looked over each pill with his eyes. Whether or not these pills would become radiant spirit pills were completely reliant on the upcoming moment. Jianchen was no stranger to the precious nature of the radiant spirit pills. If they were said to be life-saving miracle drug, that saying would not be an exaggeration. If a person were to sustain serious injuries, that person could consume a radiant spirit pill to aid in their recovery. It couldn't completely heal their wounds in one go, but it could at the very least temporarily stabilize their conditions and prevent their body from further decay. If there were enough radiant spirit pills, they could even bring back a man on the brink of death to a healthy state. Their uses and effects were unquestionable to anyone. However, the pills were rare in numbers and expensive in price. Radiant spirit pills became extremely rare objects on the continent because of the wide-scale hoarding of what remained. Only a few top-class experts and households would possess them, but even they only owned a few. The main reason why Jianchen wanted to manufacture radiant spirit pills was because of his close friends and family. Should he make enough for them all, he wouldn't have to live each day concerned for their well-being, should they come across an enemy. If something were to happen to them while he was away, the radiant spirit pills could at least prevent the worst from happening. Refocusing on his thoughts, Jianchen exhaled to stabilize himself. Closing his eyes, he began to separate the radiant saint force from the world. He moved it into the space in front of him. As things were, Jianchen was a 6th-class radiant saint master. This meant that he belonged to the higher echelons of radiant saint masters. So with practically just his mind alone, a faint flow of milky white light started to converge in front of his chest. With time, this light grew brighter and brighter, and in no time at all, it became a rich white sphere of light that illuminated the entire room in its warm white glow, as if the room had become a world of snow. As soon as Jianchen was able to guide the radiant saint force with his hands, he began to try to infuse the pill shells with the radiant saint force. In the beginning, he came across some resistance, as He Yun said before. To try and force his radiant saint force inside was like stabbing a hole into a stone using the finger. The average person wouldn't be capable of that. This was the most difficult part of making a radiant spirit pill, and was also the most limiting stage in the process. However, even this difficulty barely posed a challenge to him. He was a 6th-class Radiant Saint Master with his powerful mind ability. Therefore, he was able to successfully infuse the pill shells with the Radiant Saint Force. Jianchen managed to fill the shells completely with an unending flow of Radiant Saint Force. The previously gray-colored shells began to turn milky white, before finally becoming as white as snow. When the shells became completely white, it meant the pills had reached the utmost capacity of what they could contain. No matter how much Jianchen tried, he couldn't add any more Radiant Saint Force to them. The shell would only keep what it could contain while leaking out the surplus. Ceasing his attempts, Jianchen broke off control and allowed the concentrated Radiant Saint Force to dissipate into the air. Very quickly, the snowy white room turned back to its normal dusky atmosphere. With another thought, Jianchen levitated the 30 Radiant Spirit pills into his hands. He admired his own handiwork with a satisfied smile and knew that he had succeeded. However, when he sensed just how much Radiant Saint Force was in them, his eyebrows furrowed together. These have to be Class 3 Radiant Spirit pills. They're very lacking in efficacy. What a shame that these pill shells limit how much Radiant Saint Force can be contained in them. Otherwise, I would have made even better pills. Chapter 647. The theory behind pill-making. Jianchen was not too pleased with only making Class 3 Radiant Spirit pills. I wonder what allows more Radiant Saint Force to be infused into the pills. Could the pill shells themselves be the limiting factor? Jianchen thought. Storing the Radiant Spirit pills he made into his space ring, Jianchen exited his chambers. A soldier then led him to where Hiyun was resting. As the new hall master for alchemy, Hiyun had a fair amount of status within the Flame Mercenaries now. Hence, Hiyun had been given his own residential area within the palace. It came as a large surprise to see that the high and mighty Saint Ruler of the Flame Mercenaries came to personally seek him out. Despite being an alchemist, which garnished him a decent amount of respect within the kingdom, even he would have to bend the knee and bow to a Heaven Saint Master, let alone a Saint Ruler that stood on top of even Heaven Saint Masters. There's no need for work, Master Hiyun. I came here to ask several questions. Let us sit down and talk. Jianchen smiled kindly as he sat down at a nearby table. The captain only needs to ask for Hiyun, and Hiyun would come running as swiftly as possible. How could I dare have the captain come see me? Overwhelmed by Jianchen's kindness, he hurried to form a reply. Sitting down in the seat opposite of Jianchen, Hiyun grew nervous. He was in the presence of a Saint Ruler, and even if that Saint Ruler was many years his junior, Hiyun was still extremely flustered. On the Tianyuan continent, power dictated everything. Master Hiyun, I came here this time to inquire about several aspects with the Radiant Spirit pills. If I may, what are the highest level pills I could make with the pill shells you made for me? Jianchen asked. Captain, the pill shells I gave you were made using ordinary ingredients, so I think that the pill shells I made can only be Class 3 Radiant Spirit pills at the very highest. The ingredients act as a limiter, sealing enough Radiant Saint Force to be classified as a Class 3 Radiant Spirit pill. If one wishes to craft even higher class pills, then one must use even rarer ingredients to construct the shells. Master Hiyun, would you be able to help me craft higher class pill shells then? I am in need of Radiant Spirit pills no less than the 6th class. Constructing Radiant Spirit pills corresponded with the level of the Radiant Saint Master. Following that logic, Jianchen would be able to craft Class 6 Radiant Spirit pills, since he was a 6th class Radiant Saint Master. Thinking hard about the task, Hiyun responded, Captain, I have the ability to make the shells for Class 6 Radiant Spirit pills, but the ingredients are far too precious. The pills require ingredients at least 1,000 years old. While not heavenly resources, they are still ingredients of expensive prices. Master Hiyun, make a list of whatever ingredients you need, and I will have people collect them at once. Shortly afterward, a small list was made with the ingredients required to make a Class 6 Radiant Spirit pill. With the list in hand, Jianchen left Hiyun to his own devices. He commanded people to gather the ingredients on the list as quickly as possible. With Jianchen personally commandeering the request, The ones who were called to serve were quick to return with the items. Only a single day was required for the ingredients to be gathered. The 1,000-year-old ingredients, usually expensive in price, were found in the depths of a nearby mountain. Thus, they had been harvested swiftly. With all the ingredients at hand, the newly recovered Yin was sent straight back to his workshop to undergo the alchemical process. This time, it took 2 whole days for 100 radiant spirit pill shells to be made and given to Jianchen. Jianchen wasted no time at all when the pill shells were given to him. Closing himself off in his room, he began to undergo the process of infusing radiant saint force into them. Crafting Class 6 radiant spirit pills was far more difficult than crafting Class 3 radiant spirit pills. Jianchen was only able to craft 3 Class 6 radiant spirit pills, while taking the same amount of time it took to craft 30 Class 3 radiant spirit pills. Since they were far more sturdy in shell, infusing radiant saint force into them was far harder than their lower-grade counterparts. Jianchen could only make 3 at his current skill level. Half a day was spent by the time 3 Class 6 radiant spirit pills were made. These pills were about a thumb in size and glowed with a milky white light. Jianchen levitated the pills in front of himself with a smile on his face. The reason why he was crafting these radiant spirit pills were for his friends and family. While he was a radiant saint master, he couldn't always accompany them during their journeys. Should an unexpected danger befall them, a radiant spirit pill could save their life in his place, so making some would take plenty of weight off his shoulders. Crafting 3 Class 6 radiant spirit pills took up 1/5 of my mental strength. Following that number, I should be able to craft 15 pills before my energy is expended. Jianchen thought to himself. Looking at the nearby dozens of shell pieces, he muttered, 3 is not enough. I need to craft even more of them. Having said that, Jianchen floated another 3 pill shells. He then started to gather the radiant saint force in the world, trying to infuse it with the pill shells once more. The next few days were relatively calm. Absolutely nothing happened, and the flame mercenaries were able to continue with their mining without a hitch. Every day was a new harvest of tungsten alloy, and the amount they had in store was accumulating at an inconceivable rate. The vein that was being mined became a heavily guarded area by the flame mercenaries. Practically every force they commanded stood there as silent watchers to prevent anything from happening. Just as Jianchen started on the 3rd day of crafting the Class 6 radiant spirit pills, an overwhelming might immediately flooded the area with its pressure. The clouds and wind in the sky immediately grew turbulent, and the overflowing energy in the world started to act up as well. Little Jianchen, come out and accept your death. An elderly voice boomed across the sky, reverberating for kilometers around. The powerful voice had been loud enough to make the walls of the palace shake violently, while some people felt their eardrums pop. Clapping their hands to their ears, the ones affected the most let out a wailing sound from pain. Chapter 648. A powerful enemy, little Jianchen, come out and accept your death. An elderly voice boomed across the sky, reverberating for kilometers around. The powerful voice had been loud enough to make the walls of the palace shake violently, while some people felt their eardrums pop. Clapping their hands to their ears, the ones affected the most let out a wailing sound from pain. Jianchen's eyes flew open instantly. He had been in the midst of infusing some pill shells with radiant saint force. With just a thought, the gathered radiant saint force flashed once before dissipating into the air. You finally arrived and with friends, Jianchen muttered to himself. The urge to kill began to radiate from his eyes. He stored the 3 unfinished radiant saint force into the bottles before he flashed away out of the palace. Jianchen looked very mysterious as he flew through the air with the wind element wrapped around his body, making it glow cyan. As Jianchen flew through the palace and up into the air, the aura leaking from him was majestic and ready for battle. At the same time, another 2 bursts of energies made themselves known from the palace. The sudden occurrence of both led to the space around the palace to freeze up. With so many saint rulers gathered here, their auras were already clashing against one another with such pressure that everyone down below found it hard to breathe. Their hearts were trying their best to keep beating, but their lungs seemed refused to work, not letting them breathe. The graceful white robe wearing Jeditai and the proud gold robe wearing newbies flew out shortly after. They turned into beams of light as they followed Jian Chun into the sky. Several seconds barely passed before Jian Chun, newbies, and Jeditai were assembled several thousand meters in the air. Shoulder to shoulder, each one of them icily observed their opponents. Right in front of them were three expressionless men. Of the three, one of them was the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. The other two looked as if they were past their 70s, but their eyes were filled with an abstruse light reminiscent of the stars in the night sky. Of these two, one of them wore a blue robe and had white hair that looked as if it had never experienced any grooming before. The elderly man's disheveled appearance made him look as though he was a beggar. His hands were crossed against his chest, and his eyes seemed to be gauging the three figures in front of him. The other wore robes made from what appeared to be sackcloth. Unlike his companion, his face was peaceful-looking. No killing intent could be detected from him, but there was a sharp aura that could be felt in its place. With these two factors, he resembled a being who would stand alone outside the secular world. But his eyes were by no means extraordinary. Combined with his simple clothes, this elder looked more like an elder enjoying a life of peasantry out in the mountains. Jian Chen's expressions hardened as he took in the three saint rulers. 3 was a number that was more than enough to make him feel a great deal of pressure. It had been hard enough to completely subdue one saint ruler with 3. By adding another 2 saint rulers with even more power to the mix, the situation would undoubtedly be worse off for him. Peals of laughter erupted from the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger when he saw Jian Chen's hardened face. Snarling, he said, "Jian Chen, I've said it that day ago. The humiliation I've suffered will undoubtedly be returned tenfold to you. Today will be your death day. Do you really think you will be able to kill me?" Jian Chen asked emotionlessly. With his chaotic body and its ultimate defenses, he was sure that the saint ruler would be hard-pressed to kill him. "Jian Chen, the situation doesn't look good. I can't make out the strength of the other 2. That means they're at the very least stronger than the one from the sect of Dragon and Tiger." Jeditai grimly confided with Jian Chen. Even newbies clenched his fists, so that the joints in his almost woman-like fingers popped one after another. "Jian Chen, this will not be easy. Their strengths are far too strong. That blue-robed elder is a saint ruler of the 5th heavenly layer, and the white-robed one is even stronger at the 6th heavenly layer." Newbie's strength was at the same level as Jeditai, but as a golden-striped silver snake, he possessed something that was magical. He was able to clearly divine the strength of the 2 saint rulers. Blanching from shock, Jian Chen looked at the 2 other saint rulers. He hadn't thought that the ones that the sect of Dragon and Tiger would invite would be that strong. Now knowing the strength of his enemies, Jian Chen was no longer as confident as before. The gap between the 2 sides was just far too big to be made up for by any other means. A single saint ruler at the 5th heavenly layer could easily dispatch of newbies and Jeditai by himself. With a 6th heavenly layer and a 4th heavenly layer against him, Jian Chen would be powerless. Hiding his right hand behind him, Jian Chen retrieved a jade stone from his space ring and crushed it without making a sound. "Jian Chen, what do we do? We're no match for them." Jeditai spoke in concern. "How unexpected to come across such experts as soon as I step into the human world." Newbie snarled. "There are many hidden dragons and tigers in this world, it seems. Jian Chen, I'll fight the 6th heavenly layer saint ruler. The other 2 will be up to you too. Is that in your power?" Jian Chen asked in concern. The gaps between each saint ruler's heavenly layer were extremely large. Death would be inevitable for the 3rd heavenly layer newbies to fight against the 6th heavenly layer saint ruler. "Aside from me, neither of you would be a match for him. I am a magical beast, don't forget that. My strength isn't comparable to a human of the same level, even more so as a beast from antiquity." Newbie spoke. "Since that's the case, I should take care of that one. Your defenses are strong, but you are no saint ruler. You've no comprehension of the world mysteries, meaning that you do not possess the ability to fight him. Let me handle the saint ruler from the sect of Dragon and Tiger then." Jian Chen spoke. The chaotic force in his dantian began to ripple across his entire body to maximize his defenses to their utmost limits. On the other side, the Saint ruler Sita-Ching was also planning something similar, killing Jianshen. Guqiu, please stop the other two for me. Bai Hai, come help me kill Jianshen. Bai Hai's eyebrows knit together. He's using the elements in the world to fly. That means he isn't even a saint ruler. To use the two of us against one, isn't that using a bit too much for far too little? Bai Hai, don't underestimate him. This brat has a talent that outshines anyone else in history. Even you'll be amazed. We must fight him together and kill him. If not, then he'll cause no end of trouble for us. The saint ruler spoke before charging at Jianshen with Guqiu, and Bai Hai not too far behind. Hiss! Out of nowhere, the soul-piercing hiss of a snake could be heard as Newbie's entire body turned golden. The next second, his entire body transformed into that of a snake about half a meter thick. His transformation made him into a beast that inferior magical beasts could not compare to. Even the length of his body was shockingly long, at what seemed to be 10,000 meters. By the way he was coiled up in the air, his entire body looked as if it could wrap around the entire world. There was also a duality of golden and silver colors flashing on its body. This was the regal golden-striped silver snake at its mightiest. No more precautions could be made for a saint ruler of the 6th heavenly layer. So Newbies had to show his true power all at once. His sudden transformation had left the three opposing saint rulers utterly speechless. For a good while, nothing could be said or done as they stared at the giant snake coiled in the sky. He was a magical beast, Sita-Ching gasped. Golden-striped silver snakes are beasts that have lived since long ago. Their poisons are unequaled. Guqiu cried out as well. His eyes narrowed ever so slightly, and even his previously amicable expression gained a tint of steel to it. A Class 7 golden-striped silver snake had a poison that could threaten the life of even a saint ruler. The blue-robed Bai Hai stared at Newbies with a grim light in his eyes. Did it come out of Cross Mountain? However, Newbies had already sprung into motion. His body trembled slightly with enough force to shake the world around him as a golden light emanated from his body. Then with blinding speed, Newbies flew toward Guqiu to trap him inside his coil. I shall handle this old one. The other two are up to you too. A coarse hiss sounded through the air. When Newbies transformed, even his voice had changed. Now, it was indistinguishable whether Newbies was a male or female. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.